Check.
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 1, 2,
2, 1.
3, 4,
There
5.
we go. Okay, good.
Yeah, I remember to turn everything on this time.
Thank
I
you.
remember to turn your microphone, not you.
How many buttons are there?
It's quite a bit, actually. There we go.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe one day I will count all the buttons.
Like original Nintendo, you had, like the controller part where you move the guy, and then you had 2 buttons basically.
Well, you forgot start and select.
Yeah. They didn't really come into play that much, though. Every once in a while.
Did you ever use select for anything?
No.
So the only time I used it was on Contra to hit select to go to player 2. Other than that, I never used select. Didn't know what it was for.
I feel like I'm not legit because I never messed with the original Nintendo.
Yeah, you're not very legit.
Started with the Game Boy.
Game Boy.
Game Boy's good.
That's legit.
I actually pulled my Game Boy out the other day.
Oh,
yeah.
I found
Dusted it
again.
off?
Dusted it off, yeah. I was playing Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Donkey Kong's hard. You got to master like the backwards jump. And that's a key with any Mario game. Like you got to master that, like where you toggle them back just the other way, just ever so slightly, and then get them to jump over the barrel.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you're done.
I was playing Donkey Kong and then Paperboy. And Paperboy is probably...
Paperboy is tough.
It was tough, but to me it was the most boring game
Oh,
I've ever played.
yeah, you ride around on a bike.
Yeah.
I'm still out here clueless. I didn't play
No,
Paperboy.
but
What'd you play?
I played
You got a
Pokemon. I started off with
Oh,
Pokemon.
I hated
So was this
Pokemon.
not the original Game Boy? Was it like, oh yeah, this wasn't the Tetris Game Boy. This was like Game Boy Color.
yeah, no, you have to have the Tetris that's the size of a full-size brick.
All right, so I can't relate to all of you.
Well, I only had the Game Boy Pocket.
I didn't know I didn't have that either. Okay.
I had a Game Gear.
Wow,
Yeah,
that sounds old.
it's very old. The screen was like 2 inches big. You could never see it. It was supposed to be the like the answer to the Game Boy. It was Sega's what's it called, portable device, but it was in color. It was supposed to be like a mini Sega Genesis, not to be confused with the now new mini Sega Genesis that's
Have you got
currently out.
Have any of you guys played an arcade game in a long time? Like just straight up arcade.
When we went to the movies, I wanted to.
You thought about it.
Yeah.
There's a spot called Coin Op downtown. They're like it's meant for like, it has alcohol and stuff like that. But yeah, they have a bunch of arcade
We
games.
need to all
there.
go
Mortal
one day.
Kombat and stuff.
We need to all go one day, but I forgot about how slow the response is. It's like you hit a button and it's like 40 seconds later that the thing responds to it. It seems like it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually let down by the graphics on Game Boy. It's just, it's just contrast.
Yeah.
I couldn't see shit. I didn't know what I was looking at. So you go from like 4K stuff back to Game Boy, and
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the little like arm with a light to like if you wanted to play in the dark, you had to
Oh,
have
I
an
do
external
remember
light.
that. Yeah.
Like it wasn't backlit. Like that's
Yep.
how crazy that.
Well, I kept trying to turn up my saturation contrast, and I can't. There's no
It
perfect.
just doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
Look, we grew up playing video games, and look at how great all of us turned out. I mean, we're totally fine, right?
For the most part.
You guys are okay.
For the most part.
You're still damaged goods over there.
I'm still recouping. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. There's a lot of good games.
Yeah.
A lot of good games to play.
I still watch like old footage of video games. That's how much of a loser I am.
You are scarred.
Yeah.
What's the deal with Minecraft? How did that become a thing? Because that was like, it's such a step back graphics wise.
It's digital Legos.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine how fun Legos were when you were a kid, now imagine you can build whatever you want,
Yeah.
as high and big as you want, and as much as you want, but just in a digital space.
You can build your own world.
Yeah, it's. I played it with Jasmine.
I wonder how
for a
they
while.
landed. I wonder how they came like to those graphics. So they're so bad.
What's the
Like,
game?
did they start out with that mindset, or were they like, hey, if you're going to be able to do whatever the hell you want, then we're going to have to chill on the graphics?
Dumb it down. It was probably just some
Yeah.
like programmer just like I only put this piece of crap out there, see what happens, and then like it blew up, and then
Somebody
whoever,
was just high as shit.
yeah, then like Microsoft bought it or something like that.
Yeah, he was a Swedish dude. He made it with that intent. Like the graphics were that bad from the start, but then people like picked it up because you could build anything.
What's the game that people are playing now where it's like this alternate reality, and like you create your? Have you heard about you like create yourself in this alternate reality, and then you pretty much stop living your life outside of the game, and you live your life. It's like you live
World
your
of Warcraft?
Is it called
Or-
YouTube?
I like that.
No, I don't know what it is, but I heard about this game where it's like you create yourself in this alternate reality online with other people, and you create the life you wanted to always have that you weren't able to create in actual reality.
Damn.
Well, there's Sims, but that's been.
There's,
Is this new? Is this like a new thing?
I heard about it like 2 years ago, but Sims fans are hardcore.
Yeah, no. People that like Sims, they get deep in that. What you just described to me seems like any like MMORPG, any game where you can just like create a character and like go in and have a clan. And I've lived that life. It's not good.
So I think that that's the direction of a lot of stuff. I think even like social media, like, so, you know, like right now, social media wise, you just post like, oh, here I was in Tahoe, you know, this, like I went to Tahoe this past weekend, right? But they're going to have simulated stuff where you're going to be able to put yourself into any environment with anybody. I could be like sitting down drinking fucking coffee with like Babe Ruth or something.
Yeah.
Like, you could like go into these like alternate universes type thing.
Yeah.
Does it have to do with VR or no?
I think it was VR, yeah.
Oh,
It's, yeah, virtual reality type stuff.
But like what you were talking about, Mark, they kind of already do that on Instagram, though.
Right.
Like they hire somebody to like, hey, put me at the Eiffel Tower, and then they pretend that like, oh, I took this trip, you know,
Right.
to Paris, and they like kind of follow like a map.
And there's been people that have been caught like lying with fake
Yes,
photos and
yes.
stuff, right?
But
That's
then-
even funnier.
There's people that have trolled and been like, I pretended that I was rich on Instagram for a month, see what happened, and they get like hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah, no. There's
like-
a guy that did that.
I'm gonna do that next.
You
You won't
think,
do it.
you gotta think, how far is it gonna go? Like I had this vision the other day when I was running, and like everyone, you want to document more and more and more, right?
Uh-huh.
I was thinking, well, what if I had like this eye contact? I could put my eye, and I just like I stream
Right.
everything. That's like it's got to get to a point where you're taking people through your entire life, and people are just dropping into you streaming your life.
What was that Jim Carrey movie? You know the one?
There's a lot of good Jim Carrey
Truman
movies,
Show?
yeah.
Truman Show. Have you seen the Truman Show?
Yeah, it's Truman
Yeah.
Show. But that's almost like today's vlog.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's also like a reality show, right?
Yeah.
But I think almost what he's talking about is like Truman still gets followed around by somebody. He's talking about like right through his own eyeballs.
Yeah.
Which that would be crazy.
Like people are seeing what you see.
Like if I
all
could
the
tune
time.
in on his IG and like just see like what he's doing at
See
jujitsu
everything,
or
yeah.
whatever,
Mhm.
you know, and I could see, you know, Andrew like coming into work, and I could see you doing stuff down in Texas. That would be wild.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder too, like who, like sometimes I wonder if someone's dropping in on my phone watching me. Someone's dropping in on your eye contact watching. You know, it's like,
Right.
how far is it gonna get?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, my SD card would get full quick. You know, pop it in my forehead.
So you've had a successful YouTube channel, and you still have a successful YouTube channel. Do you sometimes just not want to share shit?
Yeah.
Get to that point? I mean,
it gets-
because it's great to share things, and it feels awesome to have like fans and people following along and all that. But sometimes you're like, fuck, I just don't want to share anything right now.
Yeah, I think you know, in the beginning it was amazing where I started sharing my story and the whole process by documenting everything. And at that point in my life, I just moved to Texas. I was in the military in the Army and just started documenting. So like I wasn't in a relationship. I didn't have any other really responsibilities or priorities other than build my business and be in the Army. So I could document everything.
Yeah.
And it was on my own terms. But as my life progresses, and I've kind of already set that standard for myself of documenting, showing everything, well, where does it get to a point where I don't want to show it anymore? I think that's one of the things I think about all the time. Like, when do I stop the vlog?
Somebody goes to your YouTube channel, and it like pops up with you just talking, and you go to do something, and then it just flashes pay site.
Yeah.
People are like, no,
No, I mean, I
he's
enjoy
gone dark. What's
I
he
enjoy
doing?
I enjoy taking people through the process and sharing it. But I've definitely shared less throughout the years because I think some things have to be personal.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's things that aren't supposed to be shared. And for people to expect to see everything, I think that's just, it's unrealistic.
Yeah, we film so much in the gym, and a lot of times I just tell the guys to just don't bother, you know, like, and I'm not mad or angry or any, I love training, and sometimes it's just for me, you know, like sometimes I just want it. It's therapeutic. You said running feels very therapeutic to you, right?
Yeah, it's like, and that's the thing with his Ironman right now. It's hard to document. So like when I would film workouts in the gym, okay, I can get someone to hold a camera, I can set up a tripod, and I can train stationary. When I'm covering tens of miles, you know, one, trying to find someone to cover that distance with you and have the logistics to be able to do that is hard. But then when
Don't they make shit that can follow you around?
a drone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like a little drone.
But it gets to a point where, I'm 10 miles in. The last thing I want to do is pull out my camera and vlog. I've actually run 8+ miles with a Sony A7 III in my hand before. Some of the stupidest things I've done, like miserable. Now I just pull my phone with me.
Right.
But sometimes when I'm in that moment, I don't want to pull out the camera and like record it. I just want to like embrace it.
Would you try an Ironman?
Dude, no, I was like thinking because you've done marathons, you're doing the Ironman, you're doing all this super endurance stuff, and I don't think right now, no. I don't think
You don't really like to
lies
run
anywhere.
very much, right?
I don't like
it
to
bothers
run.
your knees.
It bothers my knees. It's when I used to play soccer, but I was always running on grass. Now, if like I just run on concrete, my knees don't like it. So Ironman looks super dope and it's hardcore. And the swimming part kind of is not in my alley. That's just because I don't swim well. Like I'm really, I have mass, nothing else. But
Yeah, you're gonna sink pretty.
I sink. But yeah, no, it looks super cool.
Well,
I don't know.
what do you weigh?
Tough, man.
245.
I mean, you're a big guy.
Yeah.
For a big guy like that to be running,
I feel
that
like
is
I'd
hard on the joints.
I'd have to drop. You're like what, 195,
I'm like
205?
205 right now.
205.
But I will tell you, like going from 215 to 205 has had a massive difference in my joints running. Just having the right pair of shoes too. But like carrying that amount of mass around, for one, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see many big guys running long distances. It's not comfortable.
From a like wind perspective, has there been a big difference in just dropping a little bit of weight, or is it more just like how you feel carrying yourself, like your joints and stuff?
I mean, I'm definitely able to run faster now, but it's hard to say because as I'm dropping weight, it's directly proportionate to my training volume. So like as my volume of training and endurance increases, I'm also dropping weight.
I see.
So am I getting stronger?
You're
and
working on
faster?
your endurance, so of course it's getting better, right?
Yeah, but joints definitely feel a whole lot better when I'm lighter.
What about in terms of like, people that want to like just look better, aesthetically, they just want to lose some body fat. Do you think running, cycling, swimming, do you think these things have benefit? Because sometimes we're hearing mixed messages out there. Sometimes people are like, no, man, don't do cardio. You're going to burn muscle. You're jacked. You're in really good shape. And we trained today. And not only were you efficient with all the stamina type stuff, but you were strong as well. And you've deadlifted over 700 pounds before. So, what are some of your thoughts on this?
I think it's like what's most practical for your goals. So like if you're training for endurance, obviously you have to get some miles under your feet. You have to get the volume. But if you want to look good aesthetically, it doesn't maybe not make sense for you to go run 5+ miles. You might not have the time or the energy. And like we were talking about earlier, if you're training for aesthetics and strength and volume, well, does the cardio that you're applying take away from that? Because there's a lot of people that want to, if you focus on the training in the gym, well, a 5-mile run the morning of or the evening of is going to take away from that strength training. It will, whether you want it to or not. So like, does the cardio you're applying make sense to your goals? And I think that's the best way to look at it. So like metabolic conditioning, like we did earlier, like a HIIT session, that's great for a lot of people. But then like professional bodybuilders, the low impact steady state stuff is great too. If you're an endurance athlete, well, you have to get the miles in. So it's like, what are your goals and how does that cardio apply to your goals?
Yeah, Metcon could be any variety of things, but basically the way a lot of CrossFitters use it could be a 12 to like 20-minute workout. And normally it involves pairing, 2 things or 3 things back and forth. And sometimes you go through more than one circuit. That's kind of what we did today. We did a bunch of stuff. We did the bike, then we did the pull-ups, and then we moved into doing the tank. And the tank was kind of like interval based because we just kind of kept going back and forth. And then we messed around with some sledgehammer type stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I love including metabolic conditioning like Metcons because you can choose like a few select exercises, run some rounds, gets your heart rate up really high. But I think depending, like when you're talking fitness, you're talking to different groups of fitness. You're talking to the powerlifting community, the bodybuilding community, the CrossFit community, endurance athlete community. Like, there's multi-facets of fitness. So a lot of times you say Metcon, they're like, oh, CrossFit.
Right.
Well, you can take like some functional movements
You can do any version of it you want.
and just get your heart rate up, and you're gonna be in a metabolic conditioning state.
Yeah, someone that just wants to maybe burn some extra calories in the gym. And I don't know what the science behind this would be, but I can't imagine it would negatively impact anything if you were to do hammer curls, and in between every set of hammer curls did some box jumps, just 5 reps of box jump, you don't have to do a million of them, just do 5 reps in between, it's going to elevate your heart rate.
Right.
And again, I could be wrong, but I don't know why it would negatively impact. It shouldn't negatively impact your strength because it's only 5 jumps. So you should still be able to lift something heavy. And we know that, you need something heavy to get a stimulus for muscle growth. And so you should be fine. You should be fine being able to do something like that. What I find really interesting about training like that, and I know you've done some training like that as well, it's so unconventional. Like, you don't normally do it except for, like, in the case of these kind of CrossFit workouts, these Metcon workouts. You go back and forth between using your legs, like using your lower body, and using your upper body.
Yeah.
And that is, like, really hard for me. And I don't know about everybody else, but, like, for me, it seems really hard to recover from that. And then sometimes you really get fucked over because you use something like the assault bike, which is working both.
Yeah.
And now you're like, okay, man, my legs are dying. I'm just going to use my arms. And then you're like, oh shit, now my arms are dying. I'm just going to try to use my legs. And they're trying to, like, balance it out, but you die quick on that stuff.
I think that's the hardest part is, and it took me a little bit to realize it. It's like, why does this hurt so much? Why is this uncomfortable? Well, the blood is in the bottom of your body for some movements, and then you can literally feel it moving to the top of your body as you're doing, like, pull-ups or maybe push-ups or something like that. And you can feel the blood moving back and forth. So that's what makes it uncomfortable, Yeah,
it's hard to get that oxygen supply when you're shifting around that much energy, right? Going back and forth between so many different things.
Right now, with all the triathlon stuff that you're doing, is your goal to do the triathlon and then to, like, maybe continue doing triathlons through the next few years? Or are you just trying to do the triathlon thing because you've talked about in video, that, yeah, you're going to lose a little bit of muscle because you're building endurance, but do you plan on transferring back to having more muscle, maybe doing CrossFit type work, or is this, like, something you, like, enjoy? So
in the beginning, I didn't know what I wanted to do after, because the Ironman was a bucket list thing. So the way I decided I wanted to do it was I finished up a 100-mile ruck march, and it was like 2 days later, and I was sitting on the couch with my fiance, and we were debating on whether to go to the hospital or not because my feet felt like they were broken. So I had the computer on my lap, and instead I ended up on Ironman's website, and that's when I decided I was going to do it. And it's always been one of those things in the back of my mind that I wanted to complete. To be honest, like, when I said originally I wanted to do an Ironman, I didn't know what an Ironman was. I knew there was a swim, bike, and run. I didn't know the distances. But it was like that challenge that was appealing to me. Now that I'm like 10 weeks into this prep, I've learned that I still love running, but I'm not in love with cycling and swimming.
Okay.
So I don't think, like, the triathlon life is for me after this, but it's one of those things I want to accomplish. So after it's done, like, I know I will lose size and strength during this prep, which I'm kind of looking forward to, because afterwards, well, then I get the opportunity to document the rebuild.
Yeah.
To show people, like, how to get back to that point. And the focus will be size and strength again after this Ironman.
How about CrossFit? Are you going to mix that type of work in too?
Yeah, there'll still be, like, some metabolic conditioning.
Yeah.
And body weight movements. I still like some body weight movements, but we're still moving weight and getting volume into, like, hypertrophy type workouts. So my training sessions, like we were kind of talking about earlier, they're in a sense all over the place, where I enjoy a lot of different things. So if I want to go run 5 miles, I'm going to go run 5 miles.
Yeah.
If I want to come in and deadlift, I'm going to come in and deadlift. Sometimes I want to do strength training. Sometimes I want to do bodybuilding stuff. Sometimes I want to go run. But I'm a fan of trying all of these different things and experimenting with them and gaining the experience through, so that I don't want to be one of those people that say, well, the research says, I'm going to say, well, I tried this and this is how it worked for me.
Yeah.
So this is how it might work for you. So, like, apply all these things that people are talking about to this multidimensional facet of fitness, find out what I really like, and then I'll decide years later, okay, I know what I don't like. I'm not going to do that anymore. I know what I like. I'm going to keep training that.
Let's not rewind real quick. You mentioned a 100-mile ruck walk. I think you just mentioned that. What's that about?
Yes, I did. I've done ruck marches in the military.
Yeah.
In the past, my longest I did was 150 miles, and we did that to raise money for Hurricane Harvey victims. So we raised over $10,000, rucked from Austin to Houston in 4 days, and completed that ruck. And it was pretty beat down and rough. And I've done other ruck races outside of the military, like the Bataan Memorial Death March, which is a massive event. It's down south in White Sands, New Mexico, and that's just a massive military and civilian event. 26.2 miles in the high desert, and then I decided, well, I want to do 100 miles for time. So I want to do 100 miles as fast as possible with 50 pounds on my back, and I'm doing that in 30 hours, which is probably the most pain I've experienced through a ruck ever.
Yeah.
But that was one of those things where the best way to put it is running in endurance events is where my mind is the most clear, and it's kind of therapeutic for me. Like I can think very deeply about business or fitness, or like my vision and my goals. And as much as like it sucks, it puts my body and my mind in a place where there's no distractions other than, okay, what am I going to think about here?
You're running, you get hit with a really good idea. What do? You record it on your phone or something, or
A lot of times I will stop. Like I'll stop and I'll write down in my notes.
you're like, shit, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then I'll go back. But that's where a lot of my ideas and concepts and visions for business and fitness and whatnot have come from times running. Like there was, and this is the video of me on the ruck march right here.
Why is there such a huge difference between the bike, the run, and the swimming? Like, are those equivalent to each other? Like 112 mile bike ride versus, 26 miles of running and 2 point. Are those similar? Or is it just random that someone made that up?
I don't know where the numbers came from, but I will tell you that
this is a weird question. But do they take a similar amount of time? I'm sure it would depend on how well you did on certain things. But they take a similar amount of time or something, or
no. I mean, I'll give you there was a pro that just competed this past week, and her time was like 8 hours and 30 minutes for overall. I think her swim was 54 minutes. Her bike was like 4 hours, and her run was like 3:30, something like that, around those time frames.
they should just say do an hour each one.
That'd be nice. There are shorter events. Like there's sprint triathlon.
Hey, do an hour each one. We're gonna tally up how far you got.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, like when I found out what an Ironman actually was, I was like, okay, I got to learn how to swim now. I got some time.
Wait, you didn't know how to swim at all, or you knew how to
I can swim, but I mean, the last time I freestyle stroked before this was 5 years ago.
Okay.
The requirements to swim in the military are pretty slim, especially for certain schools. So I get in the pool and I swim. I'm like, I'm gonna see how far I can swim. I know I got to do 2.4 miles for this Ironman. I get 25 meters down the pool. I come out like,
That's me.
and I was like, holy crap! I got some work and learning to do. It's one of those things though where it's very humbling, and that's what I kind of enjoy. So it was relooking, breathing, in stroke, in feet, and moving in water. I worked with a coach to talk, technique, but it was one of the things for me where, way I'm gonna get better is just more time in the water. So I still don't love swimming, and I know I'm doing something wrong because I'm definitely breathing wrong still.
Yeah.
Because when I finish a swim, I must be swallowing air as I'm breathing because my stomach, it looks like I'm pregnant. I'm so bloated and gassy for the rest of the day because I'm swallowing so much air.
So like right now, what in terms of distance, you haven't swam 2.4 miles yet, or have you done that?
No, the farthest I've gone is 2,600 meters,
Okay.
which is about, I think it's like a mile and a quarter.
Shoot. Oh God.
So
That still sounds rough.
we'll get there with time.
Yeah.
With these long walks, you said it really messes up your feet. Why do your feet get so messed up? I mean, I know you're going like a long distance, but are your feet like getting wet, or you're just like sweating? Because I imagine that would be the worst part. If your feet get wet and dry, they go back and forth between those things. That's when you blister up and things like that.
Yeah, so when I was in the Army, my feet didn't really get torn up because my feet were conditioned to this kind of stuff. Now that I'm out, it's very rare that I ruck. It's like once or twice a year. So my feet aren't conditioned to this kind of stuff.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's my feet afterwards.
Cutting into like a blister or something like that?
Yeah, that was some, I don't want to say clickbait because it was actually real, but that video performed very well with that thumbnail.
That's gotta hurt.
People love seeing that kind of stuff, though.
Dude,
Yeah,
that
they
has
really
to
do.
hurt. That has to
Curling my
hurt.
toes right now,
Yeah.
man.
What sucked about this
Dude, your
ruck,
feet are sensitive. Like when you have a thing with your toenail or something like that, man, it hurts. Or you stub your toe. Fuck.
well, what sucked about this one is when I
Jesus.
started walking, we were on a shoulder, and the shoulder was on a 45-degree angle. So every step I took, my feet kept sliding in my boots,
Oh.
and it was really messing my feet up. So I think that was the biggest problem.
And the vest too, I assume. You said it was a 50-pound vest?
50-pound ruck. It's like a backpack, pretty much. Yeah.
Man, all this endurance stuff is... As a big guy, honestly, it's super impressive that you're able to manage all of this with all the size you're lugging around. Like, I don't know if you've watched much Ironman content, but do you see, or is there anyone out there that like has size like you that you're like, okay, he's done this. Okay, it's no?
Not like the pros are all same body type.
Mm-hmm.
They're thin, skinny, very mobile. They don't strength train like I have in the past. So no, like you don't see people like with size and strength really crossing the finish line in the front pack.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and a triathlon?
So it is a triathlon, but like a triathlon is typically shorter distances, like the sprint, Olympic, even like the half Ironman. But Ironman is like the ultra of triathlons.
Going all in. So you couldn't have tried a triathlon first. You had to dive right into the Ironman.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the same thing with a marathon. Everyone's like, why don't you just run a half marathon first? No, I'm doing a full marathon.
So you did the 26.2.
I've done a marathon before. I've done 2 marathons before, yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
How do you do on time in terms of those? Are you like just a naturally good runner that now like it's not really that bad for you?
No, my first one I think it was like a 3:58, and I did my own training on that one. Second one I hired a coach, got worse. I got 4:15.
What?
But what's interesting too is during my first Ironman training that I coached myself, I kept training legs, and the second one I stopped training legs throughout the whole prep, did worse. So I don't know if there's a correlation between the two.
Wow.
The thing with running though is, I think this is like the best way to put it. Like when I first joined the military, they break you up into ability group runs in the beginning, like when you're in your infantry officer basic course. So there's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. The Alpha guys are fast, Bravo guys aren't as fast, Charlie guys are the slowest. And the Alpha group is typically like the skinny small guys who are just running like 6-minute per mile paces, holding a conversation. I knew I didn't fit in with them, but I decided to run with them. So I'd be in the back just like sucking, and they would turn around like, "What are you doing? Like, go run with Bravo, go somewhere else." I couldn't talk, so I'm in the back just like, 8 miles, because I knew if I put myself in that position, what would make me better. So I've never been like, I still don't call myself a good runner. It's just that I have the ability to like just drive through it a little bit.
Yeah, it's challenging. I mean, how'd you get yourself to that point to where you're able to run like that? Like, do you feel like it's just mainly a mental capacity at a certain point?
It's a mental capacity to kind of break through, but like with endurance training, if you start adding more, like the question people ask me all the time is, how do I start running? Well, just get out there and start. It's like anything else. Like just start. If you want to start going to the gym, just start moving some weight. If you want to start running, just put some miles on your feet. And then over time, try to add a little bit more mileage on your feet and see how farther you can go. There's a point where like your body will start adapting to that stress. I heard someone talking the other day on a podcast about endurance training. This guy went and ran 10 miles every day to see how far he could do it. And I think he did for like 2 months straight. And for the first like half that month, it sucked. It was really hard. After that, his body started adapting to that volume. It just became the norm, and he started eating faster. So it's just like start adding more volume to that run, and eventually you'll get better.
You've been able to maintain a lot of strength as well, and you were telling me in the gym about a goal that you have to be able to run like a 5-minute mile, I think you said, and still be able to squat 500 pounds.
Same day, yeah, that's my goal. I want to do a 5-minute mile and 500-pound squat. That's like me and my brother go back and forth. Like that's our goal to accomplish.
Your brother trains like this too?
No, he's strictly strength and hypertrophy. He still runs. Like he did a half marathon when I ran the marathon, and he enjoys running, but he's more size and strength type.
Right.
Yeah. So we're both naturally bigger guys, and we grew up strength training, and that's what we like loved and we're passionate about. But for me, it's trying these different facets of fitness.
We're seeing more and more people that are training like this, where they just kind of love these different challenges, and I think it's cool because, like a lot of times back, years ago, you would travel somewhere and you were like, this area has shitty gyms, and if you were to travel somewhere and you were really passionate about still training, you might have to drive 30 minutes to find a good gym. But now, you see just there's so much information out there in fitness, and there's so many different styles of workouts. It's like, well, you don't even really need a gym. Like if you want to just go work out on the beach, and not like you couldn't do that before, but there's just more information out there now about people that are doing these styles of workouts, and there's so many challenging things you can do. You know, do some fucking burpees.
Oh yeah.
You know, do some push-ups, do some lunges. You know, you'll die. I mean, it's brutal. This stuff's it's really difficult. It's challenging. Still get a great workout from it.
It's just getting the body moving. Like for me, if I don't move my body for a day, it feels like crap.
Yeah.
Right. So I prefer to go to the gym and hit a full
You
workout.
basically exercise every day.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really don't take a day off.
What was it? Like Corey Schlesinger, he was here.
Mhm.
What did he call that? There was a term for that when you're doing just little stuff, even
Yeah.
if it's not a big workout every day.
I don't remember exactly what he called it, but I like the fact that he was referring to, you know, really focusing in on kind of like one thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you also do a lot of push-ups, right?
Yeah. So I've done 100 push-ups pretty much every day for like the past decade.
Wow.
And that was because like watching my dad growing up, he'd be in the kitchen.
Hey, just hit the floor.
Yeah, while we're eating breakfast, he's
What
in
a
the
great
kitchen.
habit.
Yeah, he's knocking out his push-ups and sit-ups. So I started doing that when I got to college because I had to get tested on my push-ups in the military. So it just became like every day, whether I'm hitting chest or not, 100 push-ups.
Is your dad or was your dad into the gym as well?
Oh yeah, he was the guy in the 80s who was wearing the stringer, the mullet, the short shorts.
Nice.
He was tan and he was jacked.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's great that he was that into fitness, but I think if you have this idea in your head that, you know, you're going to figure out ways to just keep moving and you go on walks and you do push-ups and stuff, that could possibly even be a way to like avoid going to the gym at all. Like if you do a couple hundred push-ups every single day and you're walking and you're exercising, if you're somebody that maybe doesn't love the gym necessarily or don't feel like you have the quote unquote time, everyone's got time to knock out 10 push-ups 10 times a day, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe every time you use the restroom in a day, bust out 10 or 15 push-ups. That'd probably get you close to your number, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking, like, am I still weight training during Ironman prep? I'm still lifting like 3 to 4 days a week because for me, it's all about feeling. I feel good if I'm doing some sort of resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
If I start feeling soft, like if I grab my abs or my arms and they start feeling soft, well, that makes me feel like crap, you know? So I still want to be somewhat decent shape crossing that finish line.
That's actually great. You know, it sounds like, you know, we get a little fucking crazy in our head, but like, that's actually a good thing. It's good to recognize what you want. You mentioned earlier finding things that you don't like. And I wish more people would work on experiencing different things when it comes to their nutrition and experience different things when it comes to their training. Like just try fasting for a few days and not fasting for a few days, but try some intermittent fasting for the course of about a week. You may find out in that week that you fucking hate fasting more than you hate anything else in life. That's fine. That's actually good information for you. Now you know, like, you really dislike it. You're not your favorite thing, but it's also a weapon. It's also something that you can utilize whenever you feel the need to use it. And same thing with training. You know, you find out that every time you go to do a certain movement, you hurt yourself every time you do it. It's like, okay, we'll scratch it off the list. You don't need that exercise anymore. Hopefully you can find something that you do like.
Yeah, that was actually a big question that popped up on my Instagram a few days ago. Someone said, I see you doing all these fad diets and fad workouts. Like,
Sounds so negative.
yeah, well, he's like, why do you start and stop them and quit them all the time? I said, well, they're not fads. Maybe it's my fault of documenting and showing all of it, but I want to experiment with all these things because they are tools. Like, I don't necessarily have to use intermittent fasting and high fat, low carb, or high carb, low fat, or drop sets and supersets and all this stuff every single day. But they're tools I have in my toolbox to use at certain times and places. You know, and if you know how your body responds and how you like certain things, well, you can use these in the right time in the right place. But by no means are they fads. They're just tools in a toolbox.
Yeah, you go by how you feel from it, right?
Right.
How did that progression look for you? Because there was even a video that you tried vegan for a while, like you gave it a shot. So how did like your diet progress through the years look to where you are now?
Well, the vegan video is actually clickbait.
Oh, that was clickbait.
I was just trying to a vegan restaurant in Seoul, South Korea.
Is anything that you do real? Damn it, Nick. Christ.
No, I never got into vegan. Was never an interest to me.
Yeah.
It just never has been. That's the one thing. But with diet, I've tried
I
a
don't
bunch
know
of
if
different
I'd
things.
try that. I don't know.
You know,
I'm not against it. Whatever people want to try, you know. But like, for me personally, I don't know if I would. I don't know. I really like meat a lot.
I like meat too.
yeah, a massive part of our diet is it's meat.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I have no interest in trying.
Okay.
But like for nutrition, like I keep things pretty simple, and especially with the training I'm doing right now, I haven't tracked macros for the past like year and a half, unless I'm dieting. If I'm dieting, I track my nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But everything's based off of performance, recovery, and the scale. And what I'm finding with this prep I'm doing right now is because it's so intense and volume driven, and with the heat in Texas right now, my body just naturally is craving like nutrient dense foods, like foods that are whole foods, high in vitamins and minerals.
And it doesn't get better than this right here.
15 double-doubles.
Oh yeah, me and my brother went back to back to see who could eat the most double-doubles. It was probably like literally the worst idea of our lives.
Who won?
I won.
How many did you
Attaboy.
actually eat, though?
I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was like 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
But talk about feeling like absolute garbage.
And you ate the patty. No, not the patties, the
The
buns,
bun,
too.
yeah,
The
that's
bun
what would get me too.
That would get me. I could handle the meat, but those buns, bro.
In-N-Out is game changer. We have one next to our warehouse, and that's how I got to 230 pounds. when we were building our warehouse, our first one, me and my brother would be there till like 2 a.m. because I was still in the Army. And every night we hit 2 double-doubles and 2 things of fries, animal style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Food goes down pretty easy, man.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of food.
yeah. The location of an In-N-Out was a big determining factor in the house that we just bought. Like recently, it was like, okay, well, how far away is this house from In-N-Out? It's like, damn, that's 15 minutes. Like, how about this one over here, dude? That's only 5. Like, all right, we're going with this one.
In-N-Out's one of those meals, too, that like when I'm done, I'm sad
Wait, why? Because you want more?
because it's over.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one thing about In-N-Out.
I agree.
You know, Nick, real quick, I want us to come back to the nutrition bit, but I was really curious when you were mentioning like you were filming in the military.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about that, like obviously I don't know anything about that, but I was surprised that they actually let you film all the things that you filmed. Like, how were you just carrying your camera around and doing all that with all that going on?
Yes, that was a massive question in the beginning. I was very careful with what I filmed, so I was never at work like vlogging publicly. And if you were in the same building as me and you didn't know that I had a YouTube channel, you never knew I was really a vlogger.
Okay.
So I would carry a camera with me. I'd film like PT sessions with my platoon or some pieces of training that I was able to film. But then I would kind of talk about it like back in my barracks room, or for me, like the military when I was in was a priority and YouTube was always secondary, right? So as long as it didn't interfere with my job, well, then I would film something if I had the time. Obviously, I would have loved to capture more content when I was in, but there's just certain things that you can't film and it's not the right place. I do remember one time, though, it's like when my channel was probably like 30,000 subscribers, and we were in South Korea, and I'm filming a PT session. So I have a GoPro, and I'm low crawling with these guys, getting the good angles and the good shots. And some guy calls me over and says, "Hey, you come here." And I thought for a second he was like a fan of the channel. I was like, "All right, cool." So I walk over to him like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "Do you know who I am?" I was like, and I started, oh shit, started getting scared. And he was like this colonel, high-ranking officer. So I like snapped to attention, and he's just tearing me up for having this GoPro. So after that, I kind of like stopped filming certain things. But mostly the filming I've done in the military was when I was in South Korea, and it was not during times of work, but I documented the process of being over there and what it was like.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that on your YouTube channel or is that like somewhere else?
What's that?
All this footage that you're
It's
talking
all,
about?
yeah, it's all on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
So I got there it was February 2016, and I was there until October of 2016.
Wow.
How did all this start, man? How did you make the decision to even want to pursue the military?
So I was in I was in high school, and my cousin, he was active duty Army. He was 101st, stationed out of Fort Campbell. And at the time, like, war was really kinetic, so there was a lot going on. This was probably 2006, 2007. So I saw him coming back from deployments from Iraq and Afghanistan, and kind of the way he was changing, like how his values were changing and the respect he gained from people when he was coming back. So I thought, well, I want something like that. And then it was this one moment I will always remember. We were at my uncle's house. He came back on R&R, and my grandma said something like, why are you doing this? And he said, well, someone's got to do it. So I was like, well, that made me want to join, at least do my 4 years, like serve the country. So I applied for an Army ROTC scholarship, and at the time, it was pretty. I don't want to say it was easy, but if you applied for an Army ROTC scholarship, there was a somewhat high chance of getting it, where they paid for all of your school and everything, but you had to serve afterwards. Now it's a lot more competitive. So I applied for this Army ROTC scholarship junior year of high school, got that, went to college at the Indiana University of Pennsylvania near Pittsburgh, and then did ROTC there, and then commissioned in 2013 as an infantry officer. So really the reason I wanted to join is just because I saw, it was influenced by my cousin, and I always wanted to serve, and I wanted to enlist, but my mom wouldn't let me. She made me go to college. So
Was she scared at all, or she just wanted you to go to school?
she wanted me to go to school, and she was scared.
Okay.
It was a little bit of both.
Yeah. So you ended up finishing college and then military after that?
Yeah. So because I went through ROTC, it was a commissioning route.
Mm-hmm.
So I was an officer going in. So I commissioned in 2013 with a degree in nutrition.
Oh.
And then I commissioned as an infantry officer. So almost immediately after graduating, went to Fort Benning, Georgia for a year, where I did the infantry officer basic course, ranger school, airborne school. And then I went to my unit in Fort Hood in 2014, where I was a platoon leader.
That's cool, man. Not an easy thing to get into. How hard was it, once you got there, where you're like, oh man, maybe I made a mistake? Did they kick the shit out of you?
Infantry officer basic course was like a smooth transition into active duty. So I learned a lot, but ranger school was definitely like a kick in the dick. So I think that was the moment in my life that I realized asking for help was okay. Because up until then, it was one of those things, well, I'll kind of fake it till I make it, one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to ranger school, that's when I quickly realized, day one, if I don't know something, I have to ask how to do it. And that was like a lifelong lesson moving forward. But that was tough because that's a 61-day course. And I think I was there for like 141 days because I failed the first phase, had to recycle for 6 weeks, failed the second phase, and then went through in the third phase. So I was there for a hot minute, but a massive learning experience about myself for one, and then managing and leading people as another. And the interesting part about the military that I always talk about is you put people in like management leadership positions, but a lot of times there's some sort of monetary incentive that's driving that. So like to influence someone through leadership and management, sometimes there's a monetary reward associated with that. You work more, you get paid more. You make the company more, you get paid more. With the military, no matter what you do, you're not getting paid more. You know when that paid jump is coming based off time and service and rank. So learning how to manage and lead people and have them and influence them to make decisions based off of trust and leadership was a massive takeaway during my time in the military.
It's really complicated because, like people have to at least maybe not like you, but they have to respect you a lot, right? So
Right.
that can be really hard because you're not going to get along with everybody. Everybody that you're trying to lead, you're not going to necessarily vibe with perfectly. So you got to figure out a way to communicate with each person kind of on an individual basis. Are those some of the things that you learned?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways and decisions I made when I first got there was I knew I was doing 4 years and getting out pretty much. Like in my mind, I was going to do 4 years, but it just timed up with my business and social media that I was able to transition after 4 years pretty easily. But when I got there, I knew I was doing 4 years. So a lot of officers in my year group with me, they had a priority that they wanted to make this a career. So they were going to try to get the best evaluations possible based off of pleasing their boss or their hires. My intent was, well, I'm just gonna take care of my platoon and do whatever is best for them. Not necessarily like screw hire, but you know, their intent and end state comes first, but my platoon is like priority. So I would go to bat for them all the time, and like I wouldn't. No, I showed up with the intent of this is their platoon, and they're welcoming me into it.
Yeah.
So it's a tough position because you gotta realize that I'm a brand new commissioned lieutenant with 0 experience in the military, coming to a platoon to lead 40 guys, where some of those guys have been in the military for 10 to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they're welcoming their essentially new boss that's saying, hey guys, I'm in charge. I have no experience, and you guys have been in 10 to 15 years. So it's one of those things that you have to tread pretty lightly, where you show up, you sit back and observe for the first couple of weeks, let them do their thing, and then allow them to kind of introduce you into the platoon. But it went pretty smooth for me, where I had some really good non-commissioned officers, some really good soldiers, really good platoon sergeant, and our platoon was just like, we clicked. We were so close. But that's the part that I miss, is the relationships and the camaraderie you build there, because it's unlike anything else you find outside of that.
Were you able to, get respect from some people when it came to like your physical prowess? Because you are strong, you could kind of lead by example, maybe doing certain tasks and stuff like that. Like, hey, we're all going to do this today, and you could kind of show them how to do something. Like, did any of that work well?
100%. It's like initial impression is a lasting impression, right? So I showed up with a Ranger tab on my shoulder, which was, for one, a good thing. And then being in really good shape was that first impression. Okay, this guy like can hang. And I kind of took that to my advantage, and I'd put them through some workouts where I'd smoke their balls to show like, hey, this is the shape I'm in. Like, this is how I can run. This is how I can do push-ups. So we would do some platoon runs where, I'm pushing people hard and we're moving fast. And I think like if I talk to my platoon still to this day, they'll talk about some like the runs we did. I was never a runner when I first got in, but I knew that I had the ability to drive through a run. So I was going to kind of use that to my advantage and show them, hey, this is how we're going to work here. This is how I work, and this is what I have to offer. So, I mean, that initial evaluation just based on a physical assessment, especially in the infantry, is massive.
I really hope this question I'm about to ask you makes sense, because you mentioned that if your goal was to, or like guys came in with a goal to make that a career, right? So they'd maybe please their higher ups a little bit more, but you came in, right? And you knew you were going to be there for or not that long. So you chose to look out for the people that were underneath you. I feel like that outlook is like, even if you were to make that a career, that should still be, right, how you would lead. So would you have changed anything if you knew that it was going to be a career for you and the way you went about that? Would you go the opposite route, or would you still go in with that same intent?
No, I think just because that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, that's how you have to take care of your team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you take care of your team, the team takes care of you. And if you're able to share the same values and vision as your team, you're unbeatable. But when you start serving higher and then taking advantage of your team to meet your preferences, well, that's when shit starts going sideways. That's when you start losing respect. So my intent from the beginning was to earn and gain respect and never lose it from those guys. And I was a platoon leader for 2 years, so I was fortunate enough to have that same platoon for that whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you start a business, while you were in the military?
So I started my business in 2012, the year before I went into the military.
Oh, okay.
Interesting concept though, because I was in love with the fitness industry, and especially supplements, being a nutrition degree. So like if I had $30 in my bank account in college, I would go buy pre-workout rather than anything else. That's just, I loved it. So I had to go to this, it was called advanced camp between my junior and senior year of college for ROTC, where you get assessed as a cadet essentially from your abilities to perform and lead based off of all the other 6,000 cadets in the nation. Based off that evaluation, you come back and you get to choose what job you do in the military and kind of where you go, where you're stationed. So I went to this camp really nervous, but prepared, and my evaluations were like really, really good. So I came back with this like newfound confidence. which I never really had up until that point. Like I had the confidence, but now that I'm tested and evaluated and it's almost proven, I was like, well, shit, I can do anything. So this Army bank called USAA offers up to a $25,000 loan for students commissioning in the Army. So I took out a $20,000 loan with them to buy the inventory for my supplement company, which I didn't have to start making payments for a year and a half. So I thought I was golden.
Yeah.
So I put the inventory into production, built the website, all this stuff, and sent the products to a few YouTubers. My plan, I told my dad this, I was like, hey, I'm going to send this product to the YouTubers. It's going to sell out. We're going to make $1 million year one. So send it to YouTubers, put it into production, get the inventory, launch a company. First, like, week, maybe 2 sales. I quickly learned that was going to be a difficult trek. And in the next 3.5 years after that, fairly difficult as well. And it wasn't really until I started doing social media that I started picking up a little bit of traction. So I didn't start doing YouTube until it was October of 2014 when I first got to Texas, because all my military training was over. And I got to Texas. My unit was in Germany at the time. So I was like, well, what am I going to do until they get back? It was like 60 days till they get back. So I'm going to start a YouTube channel.
And you still had the company at this time?
Still had the company, yeah.
Okay.
It was actually the third time trying to start a YouTube channel. Tried it once in college, posted a video, got hate, deleted it. Tried once when I was at Fort Benning, posted a few videos, got hate, deleted it. Then finally, October 2014, I was like, I'm going to commit. So I bought like $500 worth of camera gear and started making videos every single day, pretty much for like 2 years straight.
Wow.
And in 2 years, I gained like 30,000 YouTube subscribers just from documenting training and nutrition and some military stuff, not so much, and some business stuff. I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure out how this platform works and what I'm supposed to be doing. And then my unit got sent to South Korea for a 9-month rotation, and I decided to keep making YouTube videos then. And at the time, before leaving for South Korea, my accountant pulls me in, and he's like, hey, you should consider closing this business because the past 3 years, you've only done $20,000 in revenue a year. You're not making a profit. I don't think it's worth it. So I declined. I said, no, I'm not going to close this business. Go to South Korea. And I had this one video that went somewhat viral. It was called The Day in the Life of an Infantry Platoon Leader. And I was actually in the field when it took off. And I get back to my phone, and I check this video is like 500,000 views.
Oh.
And then it went to 1 million views. And it was like 1,000,002. And it took my YouTube subscribers from 30,000 to 80,000 in 30 days. And that's kind of just what picked up the ball. And business started growing, and I started that whole 9 months in Korea was my most productive 9 months of my life. And I went there with the intent of, if I'm not training or working in the military, every moment outside of that is going to be learning how to build this business. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m. I work until PT at 6, PT from 6 to 7:30, in the gym filming videos from 7:30 to 9, work from 9 to 5, and then from 5 to like 1 or 2 a.m. vlogging how to learn to build the business and the brand.
Did you have people at home? Because okay, I don't know the logistics of this, but you're on the base. Did you have anyone, family, that was helping with any of the other stuff as far as the business was concerned, or were you just like...
Yeah, so I had to leave the business back in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad and brother were shipping out orders from me out of the house at the time. Mm. And then when I transitioned back from Korea to the States, my brother moved the business from Pennsylvania to Texas. And that's when we started operating in Texas.
Okay. And then when it in that period when you kind of blew up on YouTube, I'm assuming that the business also blew up too?
It got more exposure. It didn't necessarily blow up.
Okay.
We saw more sales coming in. But it was a combination of we did a rebrand on all the products on the website. We started doing more stuff on social media. It was a combination of compounding effects.
Mm. Okay.
So during this video, this was all okay to film, or were you still kind of trying to hide your camera? Because you show the GoPro camera and then...
Yeah, so I was able to film PT sessions.
Oh, okay.
But
that's right. You did say
things
that.
I couldn't film are operational security. So I can't film tactical planning or operational planning or going to the field and shooting, stuff like that. But just like us working out, I was able to film. Like this clip right here, this is me working out. The only time I could film was when no one else was in the gym. This was after PT from 7:30 to like 9.
And then so like after this video went viral, did like people give you shit like, oh, it's a YouTube guy, and kind of throw jabs at you for that?
Oh, it's like probably my most hated video. Funny thing is though, the way it went viral is a military hate group took that video and put it on a forum to kind of like talk down on me, and it kept getting shared and it just went nuts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Blew up out of hate.
Yeah.
Okay, you were a nutrition degree and you built this successful business. So like when you said you were, spending all of your free time learning about it, what did you look up? What kind of stuff were you like learning from?
So I was listening to every business podcast, audiobook, reading every book I could, because I had no background in anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was learning how to edit videos properly. So before it was just like a mosh posh, and then when I got to Korea, I was like, well, how do I actually put videos together and tell a story? Like, how do I grow this platform? Photography type videos, learning about gear to like camera gear and
It's all
equipment.
stuff you can look up on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was everything. Like everything was at my disposal, and that's where I really learned. Like if I needed to build something, like I don't need someone to tell me how to do it. I'll figure it out because it's all out there, and even more now than ever before. Like everything you need.
And it's people that tried and failed, and maybe they got some quick and easy tips for you. Pretty cool.
And I failed multiple times. I lost tens of thousands of dollars, wasted hours, but I mean it's all part of the process and the journey.
So when you came back, you finished up in the military, you came back. How did everything change in terms of the way you did business and stuff like that with your family?
Yeah, so my brother moved down to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And he started operating the business out of my house that I had in Texas. Give you kind of a little background on like Texas real estate. I bought a house in Texas, first house in 2014, brand new, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $130,000.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. So I bought that house, and my brother moved into it when I was gone, and he was fulfilling orders out of that house.
Yeah.
And he moved down with the intent of finding our first warehouse. So the first warehouse was actually supposed to be, because the business still wasn't making enough money to really sustain like employees and rent and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to build a public gym in this warehouse, and then we're going to also use it to ship our supplements out of. So we opened the gym. Like 2 months later, we closed the gym because the supplements grew so much. So we just turned it all into industrial shelving and racks. Kept a small portion of the gym for our own personal use. And we operated out of there for 2 years before moving into our new warehouse.
Okay. So do you still have another gym now or no gym?
We have it's like 1,200 square feet
Okay.
in our new warehouse, which is just like a private gym, leftover equipment that we had at the old spot.
Yeah.
It's an interesting decision. You just thought like, if we focus on this gym business, we're not really sure what that will do or what it'll become. We're already making money on the supplements, and might as well just double down there.
Yeah, because I figured the gym's ability to scale is limited.
Yeah.
By members and space, and more overhead. And with a supplement company, I mean, you can, like e-commerce business, you can scale exponentially.
Yeah.
So it only made sense, close the gym, double down on what's scalable.
Right. That makes a ton of sense.
Cool. With like these crazy, not crazy, but the like, how long is a ruck walk again?
The last one I did was
Yeah.
100 miles in 30 hours.
Cool. You're taking a blade to your foot, all this, like, I can't even imagine what that's like. What are you doing for recovery?
I think a lot of people like talk these crazy recovery protocols, and I don't have one, to be honest.
Oh, that's great.
I'll tell you that right now though, like for Ironman prep, I'm sleeping a lot more than I was in the past.
Yay.
So like for me, I was always one of these people that would stay up till midnight and wake up at 5, and I'd be good in 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
He had a high-level triathlete on the show, and he said that he slept like 10 hours a day.
Yeah, I'm sleeping like probably 7 to 8 hours right now, but on the weekends I'm probably getting 9 to 10 maybe, and I find that I need that. I definitely need that. So like priority for recovery for me is sleep, nutrition. So nutrition in terms of getting enough, but like micronutrient dense, especially in Texas.
Yeah.
Hydration and electrolytes. So nutrition is huge right now for me. And then some sort of like active stretching, or I've been using the Power Dot recently. Matt Vincent sent that over to me. So I've been using those. But like in terms of recovery, it's just been sleep, nutrition, and then some sort of stretching, mobility, like Power Dot. Things I've been hearing a lot about that maybe as volume increases I'll start including is some sort of like ice bath, sauna type work.
Yeah.
For like inflammation and improved recovery.
And of course, supplements.
Yeah, and supplements, yeah.
Do you guys make branch chains or essential amino acids or anything like that?
Yeah, we do a BCAA. We got whey protein, and then like our green superfood, which has been a massive game changer for like digestive gut health.
Oh, a lot of people really like that because they don't want to eat, that much in like vegetables, right? And so a lot of times those things taste pretty good.
Yeah. So that's probably our best seller for our company.
Wow.
But like supplement protocol, but nutrition, like I've been putting so much importance on where if I have the opportunity, it's funny because when I look back to when I was strength training and bodybuilding, tracking macros, like a cheat meal for me, I look forward to that. And after a cheat meal, I could go in the gym the next day and I'd probably knock it out even harder. You know what I mean? But with the training I'm doing now, I don't even want a cheat meal really anymore because I know what it'll do to my training the next day. Like, I can feel the effects from eating an unhealthy cheat meal into that next day's training.
That's really interesting. It depends on the activity, right? Like,
Right.
So from a powerlifting perspective, you could eat a bunch of pizza and come in here and have a great powerlifting workout.
Yeah.
Especially if you have, long rest intervals planned for the day. It really is not going to make a huge difference. But if you're going to do like jujitsu, or wrestling practice, you're probably going to throw up all over everybody else, And if you're doing triathlon type stuff, I mean, I can't imagine that would have to be difficult with that much movement.
Yeah, I mean, like, I probably sound like I'm from Austin here, but I'll go to like Whole Foods and I'll get a juice afterwards, like kale, ginger,
Right.
and like because I know like those vitamins and minerals are essential to my body just performing. Obviously, I still need to fill it with the proteins, fats, and carbs.
Right.
But micronutrients for me are super important right now.
Knowing as much as like you do about subs, obviously you own a supplement company. We were just talking about like nootropics and all that type of stuff. What like are some supplements that you continuously use on a day-to-day basis?
So green superfood
Yeah.
is a daily thing. Like, even when traveling, I have to take that. Whey protein is an everyday. Amino acid supplements. We have Intraflight, which is our amino acid supplement every day. And then like, if I'm strength training or going to the gym, I'll use like a pump supplement and pre-workout.
Okay.
But I don't use any stimulants for cardio. That's actually a massive question I get all the time. It's like, oh, do you take pre-workout before your runs? Well, like even before a Metcon, I won't. Like if I'm going to do a Metcon and then train, I won't take pre-workout because your heart rate's already being elevated during the training. And like if you take a stimulant that's already increasing your heart rate and throw a Metcon on that, sometimes it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
It's just too much. So like I will do my metabolic conditioning, then take pre-workout, and then go into my strength training.
Also, with any sort of conditioning work, once you're warm and once you're like 2 or 3 minutes in, you don't need anything to hype you up. You are very much into the workout, no matter how tired you are.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Right.
You're like, all right, well now, now you're in it.
Yeah, it's just going through it.
It's different than doing sets of squats and you put 405 on and it feels like 700 pounds. You're like, oh shit, I have no idea how the rest of this shit's gonna work out.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I could see the point, in a pre-workout because you do want something to kind of hype you up a little bit. Sometimes you might need music or you might need other people around. You need something.
Yeah. Well, for me, like a pre-workout is an experience. That's like the best way I can like talk about pre-workout supplements. Like there's a bunch of pre-workout supplements, and a lot of them are different, but they all provide a different experience.
Right.
Like some are more stim heavy, some are more nootropic heavy, some are more endurance focused. Some don't have stims.
Some of them are like Redline, which no one will touch because it's like, oh my god, like people talk about different pre-workout a lot of times, and on this podcast we'll mention something like Redline or something, and somebody will go, oh my god, no, not that one. It's like it's like everyone loves a badass pre-workout, but when it comes to that one, everyone's always like, yeah,
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tells you on the side to drink half of it, but who's going to do that?
No.
No.
With so many supplement companies out there, I mean, literally, like, we can throw a rock and hit like 4 from here. How do you guys stand out?
Yeah, so I mean, it's when you talk about a brand, you can compare a product versus a brand. They're two different things. Like, let's talk about what's the show? Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
Shark Tank doesn't necessarily pick up brands; they pick up products that are proprietary, something that makes them stand apart, because anyone can really market that product. Essentially, when you have a brand, there is a vision and mission behind that company that aligns with other people. So, like, how does your brand align with others, and where other people connect with your brand? Well, that's all behind branding, marketing, advertising, and content, right? So, you might have a million supplement companies, and their products might be similar, and that's another piece to talk about. But, like, how does your brand stand apart, and what does it stand for, and how does it connect with the customers?
Most of your customers, it's your belief that they know who you are.
Right. Yep.
Got it.
When you're talking products, I mean, there are superior products and there are inferior products based on formulations and manufacturing.
So then there's no question that they're going to pick yours over someone else, because they're gaining a lot from your YouTube channel.
Right.
They have like a quote unquote like relationship with you. They see you every day. They see the videos. They're gaining knowledge about running and metcons and nutrition, and so they're all bought into everything that you're doing. And it's not just whether they're going to choose your product over First Form or one of the other big supplement companies.
Right. I mean, I think behind any brand there is the educational piece, there's the motivation, inspiration, and then there's the product you're selling. What's the product or service? And through the product, it's what does that product look like? What's the quality, and what's the social proof? Social proof keeps your customers coming back. Like, you can't be a solid brand with a shitty product, because no one's going to keep coming back and buying that.
Yeah, if everyone has your protein and they think it tastes like crap or it hurts their stomach or something, right? You're not going to last very long.
Yeah. So, like, everyone out there will tell you that owns a supplement brand, our products are the best.
Right.
Everyone will tell you that. Anyone that owns a company will tell you that. And they might be right. But the thing is, like I said, there's a pre-workout for everyone. And there's not a universal pre-workout that's perfect for every single person. Everyone's looking for a different experience.
At bodybuilding.com, I had the opportunity to go up there a couple times and got to talk to a lot of the younger people that are there. And they told me some like pretty crazy experiences they've had, because they're so excited about training and everything. They try every new product that comes through the door. They're like the bodybuilding.com guinea pigs, So bodybuilding.com, they won't take on a new client. They won't take on new products to sell unless they test it out. They want to, try it out and stuff like that. And so a lot of these young kids there, they'll take stuff, and a bunch of them told me, like, yeah, we've had people end up going to the emergency room because they'll try 2 or 3 pre-workouts, from 2 or 3 different companies, and then they're like, well, shit, we can't even identify like what the problem was,
Yeah.
But yeah, people just getting overhyped,
It's too much, yeah. I mean, we're constantly stimulated in this like environment, whether it's through products or like content.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then there's coffee, drinking a lot of coffee. Do you drink a lot of coffee as well?
I drink, he actually asked me this question earlier. I drink 1 to 2 cups in the morning, and that's essentially just for me to go to the bathroom before I go out on my run.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Gets you going.
Yeah, it's like that plus my strong greens, like
Stimulates the plumbing.
It really does, though.
I think it's part of it's mental, because if I brew coffee and I smell it brewing, it already hits me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had that response as well.
Yeah, Mark calls it like a time machine. Like, you think you have enough time, like, I'll wait for the coffee to brew and drink it, and then I'll go. But then it's like, whoop, it's moving. I got to go.
Yeah, so I don't even want the coffee at that point, because it's already doing the job.
You still non-caffeinated, huh?
I am. Yeah.
Wow.
I did have a cup of coffee when I was in Tahoe. I just took a day off the diet and just ate whatever, and had a nitro cold brew in the morning. And I was like, this is probably going to hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, everyone should probably not be around me, because I don't know what's going to happen or whatever. But I didn't actually even notice anything. That was fine. I enjoyed it because I got it with some heavy cream in it, so it tasted good. But I was just like, it's weird. I feel like I'm over the hump, dude. I feel like I'm past it.
Wow.
I feel like I'm over it.
So you went off the diet. What did you have? Anything exciting?
No, it's funny because I was like, man, this is going to be cool. I'm just going to kind of eat whatever. And I tried to, but eating whatever is actually way more complicated than staying on a strict diet. Because when you're on a strict diet and when you are, like, I love steak. I really, really do. I love steak. I love a lot of the meat that I eat. I love a lot of the food choices that I have now. And these other foods didn't have, like, the flavor I was searching for because, every restaurant's a little different. And, like, the quality of food's a little different at certain places. Like, I ordered, like, an enchilada at a place. And it was just, like, I don't know, it was just a kind of bowl of, like, mush. Like, it wasn't very good. So I was like, that really wasn't worth it. But the chips and salsa were good.
Okay.
And the martini was good.
There you go.
But, yeah, I mean, it's always just fun to kind of do it and then be like, okay, that's why I don't do that. And then every once in a while you eat something and you're like, yeah, that's why I enjoy that every once in a while, So mixed it up a little bit. Trying to think if there's anything else I had that was really awesome. But no, everything was kind of like,
Nsima's already off of the no coffee or no caffeine.
Yeah.
He couldn't hang.
On the last episode of the podcast, I mentioned this to you. I mentioned that I was going to try it out, doing no caffeine.
2 or 3 days is really hard. I'll admit that.
By 10 a.m. on day one, I was like, fuck.
Yeah. I'm out.
So I was like, let me just do some green tea to wean myself off. And on day 2, day 3, I think I did green tea. So in total, maybe 75 milligrams versus my normal, like 300 or 400
I picture
milligrams
him
of
like
caffeine.
sitting on the floor, like trying to meditate, trying to like block it out, but he just couldn't resist it.
Yeah. So
he couldn't jujitsu his way out of it.
yeah, I had my first cup of coffee back today.
But I love what you said earlier about, you said 2 things. One, you said with YouTube, you were just shooting like a bunch of content and you were just trying to figure it out. I think that's huge. And I think that's what people should be looking for when they're thinking about their workout, thinking about their diet. Try different shit and like see what sticks and see what works. And earlier you also mentioned kind of a similar approach with diet where people said, oh, why are you quitting on this diet and going to the next one? You're like, no, I'm going from this one because this one had this effect, and now I'm hopping onto this one because I want to see if this one has this effect. And now you can start to weave your way through and say, I don't like that, I like that. What I've landed on with coffee is that I enjoy it enough to where I'm not going to like abstain from it forever. It's just like I'm just trying it out, maybe stay away from it for about a month. And then, like I was telling my wife this morning, I was like, I realized I like coffee enough to where it should be part of probably, maybe not every day, but should be part of like a daily-ish routine, And because I think that's good to realize too, like how far do you want to take shit? Do you want to be, we can all agree that within reason, I think that just about anybody could get down to maybe like single-digit body fat, right? And however, there's a lot of people that would never get there because they don't want to give up all the things that it would entail and all the things that it would involve and all the bullshit you got to put up with to get that lean. So,
Right.
And that's a great thing. I think it's really healthy for you to get your mind wrapped around that. Like, how far do I want to take this? And that will change over a period of time. Maybe when you're 25, if you're not in great shape, maybe you're just like, man, I just want to feel good with my shirt off. But maybe by the time you're 35 or the time you're 30 and you've been training for a long time, maybe you're like, hey, you know what? I'd actually love to have a 6-pack. And that'll all change. And maybe you do get that lean. And maybe you're like, fuck that. I don't even like that. I just want to deadlift. I just want to lift heavy weight.
Right. I personally like going to the extremes. I like going to like that 100% because I know where it sits and I know where 80 and 90 is. Right? Because a lot of people will say like, oh, I'm going 100% every day. Well, you're probably operating like 50%. You just don't know what 100% feels or looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you do stuff like you reach single-digit body fat percentages, you know what it takes to get there. Well, you know what 100% feels like to operate at. But a lot of people will never feel that because they don't go to those extremes. So I'm not an advocate of saying going 100% every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year is great or even optimal. But every so often, testing yourself and doing that is good to know where that sits, where that exists.
Do you have a goal to maybe push the deadlift higher? Because you said after this, you're probably going to go back to strength. Do you have a desire to deadlift? You said you deadlifted 700 pounds, right?
Yeah, 700 that was my max.
You did it in front of a bunch of people or something, right?
Yeah, it was at
All
a
hyped up.
gym grand opening, actually. I remember I threw back like I had like 4 donuts before that, probably 2 Monsters.
Oh, there we go.
I walked out. Actually, funny story. One of the deadlifts before that, I think it might have been like 650. We just moved into the warehouse, so all I had in this warehouse was a deadlift platform, a bar, and some weights. So I'm like, I'm gonna go for 650 right here in this moment. I'm wearing tights. I think I was like shirtless. I have it on film, and my buddy was there. I'm going for 650. And as I'm going up on 650, I feel myself starting to crap my pants.
Oh.
So it was one of those things like, okay, my PR before that was like 620. I was like, I'm gonna commit. I pull that weight up, but I also completely shit my pants. And I finished the lift. My buddy comes over to high five me. I just, no, stop. Tell him to stop. I walk to the dumpster, take my pants off, throw them in. And that's how we broke in the warehouse. So when I hit 700 and the gym was full of people, that's all that was going through my mind the entire time was, don't shit my pants.
Wow. Do you have that on YouTube, like the 650?
This is it right here. This is
700. Okay. Was the 650 recorded though?
Yeah, I want to see the reaction as he gets to the top. Did you shit yourself kind of halfway up and then the rest kind of
or on the 650?
Yeah. Or it just all hit you at once?
No, it was like I could feel it halfway up, and then it was almost like simultaneously as I was pulling up, it was coming out.
Oh, wow.
It was timed up pretty well.
Wow.
This exercise looks torturous. What's this? Like a hack squat type
A
of deal?
sissy squat?
Yeah, hack squat / sissy squat thing. That looked painful. Have you competed in bodybuilding before?
Yeah, so I did a show in 2013.
Oh, okay.
I did a bodybuilding show. And it was right before.
This is completely normal, by the way. 3 guys, clothes off, posing in front of a mirror at the gym.
Nothing like it. Yeah, so I did a bodybuilding show in 2013. Did a powerlifting competition in 2015.
Dude, we got to get Russ here.
We do need to get
That
Russ here.
fucker is so strong.
God dang, he's legendary.
He's actually one of our athletes.
Look at his thickness. Look at everyone's thickness. But
Yeah. I just hate guys like that. He's so strong.
He is a beast. We actually have Amanda Lawrence on our team now too.
God
who's
damn.
that?
She's strong. She's
Oh,
a
yeah,
girl
yeah. No.
squatting,
I know
what,
who she is.
570 or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget what it was. It was ridiculous.
Her deadlift's like 5 something too, mid
It's-
5s.
it's crazy.
Yeah, she's ridiculous.
Yeah, what's going on with all these women?
How old were you when you started lifting?
I was probably when I first started just getting into lifting. I was probably 17 or 18.
Oh,
Really?
That's
But that was
good.
me just going into a high school gym
Mm-hmm.
and just knocking out some workouts, like some bro stuff.
Okay.
And then when I got to college, that's when I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I would skip class to go to the gym. I remember sitting in college classes,
Yeah.
having my pre-workout mixed up, drinking it halfway through. So the last half of class, I don't know anything that happened because the pre-workout was just in me.
And you're just sitting there writing out your workout. You're like, I'm gonna try this on curls today.
Yep.
All broing out.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been there myself.
I
Good
saw,
old days.
Okay, so I saw that I saw the article of you in Train Mag when
Mhm.
you mentioned when you were younger you had an eating disorder.
Right.
Now, how did you navigate that? Because were you lifting at that time or were you
Oh,
just
no, I wasn't lifting.
No.
So that was I was a freshman in high school then. So I was 14, 15 years old. And I was playing sports. I was playing baseball at the time. I was very active in baseball.
Mhm.
And to be honest, looking back, I don't know what triggered it, but all I remember is wanting to be able to control my weight to an extreme. So I would slowly do these crazy workouts in the gym, which were me wearing a sweatsuit, jump roping, or on the treadmill with a sweatsuit trying to sweat out as much. And I slowly started reducing my food more and more and more. And it got to the point where I had to go to the hospital because my body just stopped working. My organs stopped, my digestive system stopped digesting food.
Dang.
I couldn't get out. I was so lethargic. And it got to a point where it was, I was in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
Because I was so thin. And this was for a year. Lost a lot of weight in a year. And then my mom was taking me to all these doctor's appointments because they were trying to figure out what was going on at the time. I knew the whole time I was starving myself.
Yeah.
And as a 14-year-old kid, I'm not going to admit to anyone what's going on. So one day we're going to another appointment, and we pull up to, it said an eating disorder clinic. That's when I was like, oh, damn, like, everyone knows what's going on.
They got me.
Yep. So I walked in, doctor confronts me, and it just clicked like that. Like, I was like, okay, I'm done. So, like, I'm not going to say I went home and, like, everything was normal again, but I do remember going home that day and eating 2 Pop-Tarts and realizing it was 400 calories, which is probably more than I was consuming an entire day's worth of food up until that point.
Wow.
I remember just, like, getting over the hurdle of eating 2 Pop-Tarts was difficult. And then it probably took, like, a year and a half to, like, get comfortable with eating again.
Mm-hmm.
But then I will admit that, like, getting into bodybuilding and tracking food when I did my bodybuilding show did kind of bring back some of those unhealthy tendencies. So after that, kind of struggled, but it was then time when I was transitioning to the military where it kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
And now, like, I have a completely healthy relationship with food where I can track if I want to track to reach a goal, but I don't track if I'm not using it to lose weight.
That's good.
You know, but I will admit that when I did my bodybuilding show in 2013, it did trigger unhealthy relationships with food again.
I almost wish that like everyone's eating would be handled in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether they eat too much or whether they eat too little. You know, somebody that wakes up and you know, wants to eat like a bunch of junk food to kind of start their day. I view that as an eating disorder as well, and like hugely problematic. Obviously, a 14-year-old kid not eating is a big problem, and it's great that it got addressed. But as you're saying it, I'm like, man, I wish like even adults could be kind of walked through like what you're doing just isn't smart. Like this is just not a good idea.
Right.
Like there's a lot of options. There's a lot of great options in terms of foods that you could choose over some of the foods you're currently choosing, and you could make healthier choices. And it doesn't have to be real painful. It doesn't always have to be really hard. The type of nutrition that you have right now, is it difficult at all? Like, because you mentioned that you really kind of want to fill yourself up with nutritious stuff to kind of fuel what you're doing right now for your goals.
No, it's not difficult at all. So my diet right now is focused on higher protein, higher fat, and moderate carb. So everyone thinks because I'm doing this Ironman, my carbs are like 1,000 grams. In reality, my carbs might be 200 to 250, maybe 300 grams of carbs. Given day of workout, like on days where I'm doing 6-hour workouts, carbs are higher. But generally, if it's like an hour workout a day, my carbs are like 200, 250 because I feel better that way. Like I've experimented with all these different ways of dieting and nutrition. I found that like my first 2 meals are strictly fats and protein. And then around training is when I start to include carbs. And I
Kind
feel
of before and after.
Yep. And I feel really, really good that way. But in the morning, if I throw a bunch like the thing I hate the most is like having, like if I'm back home, for example, in Pennsylvania and we all go for breakfast and I get pancakes, well, I'm dead for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I try to eliminate
It's a
carbs
killer.
in the morning as much as possible. Maybe like an English muffin here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do a bunch of whole eggs. And then if I have like an English muffin, I put a bunch of Kerrygold's butter on there. And then in the morning, it's just hydrating as much as possible to prepare for training in the evening. And then as much like nutrient dense stuff as possible. So I will go and get like a juice or maybe a fruit smoothie or try to add more fruits and vegetables into my diet. But it's not like forced right now. It's because that's what my body is craving. Like after a run, when I come back, most of the time I'm craving pineapple at this moment. Like when I get back, all I want is to eat a bunch of pineapple and like mango.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird when it's hot? Like for some reason you just want like fruit or juices.
Oh yeah.
You know, it stimulates that for some reason.
Yeah, especially like in Texas right now, where I get back from a run, like the last mile of my run, all I'm thinking about is that drink. Like I've been drinking a lot of Gatorade Zeros lately. I walk in, I throw back 2 Gatorade Zeros and like a light lemonade, and that like refreshes me. But you take heat on top of the training I'm doing right now, and it's like next level.
Mm-hmm. You know, when you were like growing and focusing on just purely muscle, right? Right now you're doing way more work than you were back then, and yeah, you're losing some weight. But back then, were you still eating fewer carbs than you were fat, or were you eating way more carbs?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was in Korea, my carbs were like 650.
650?
Yeah,
per
so
day?
like, Yeah, I remember my protein, my macros in Korea were, when I was trying to put on size, 250 protein, 650 carbs, like 85 fat. And I just remember being like in between meals, like lethargic, like just passing out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I just feel like I shouldn't feel this way. You know, like I'm getting bigger and stronger and I feel good, but I don't want to eat this 2 cups of rice right now. You know? So for the longest time, I just thought that's what I had to do. And and it was never like when keto started getting popular or these different diets. It was like kind of based off of experimentation. Like, okay, let's reduce some carbs a little bit. This is how I feel. This feels great. I'm gonna keep doing this. So I think a lot of people, when they see my diet too, they want to. If I ever say I'm lowering carbs, keto, it's like, no, I just feel better personally off of lower carbs.
Yeah.
Do you eat a lot of meat too?
Yeah, we do a lot of meats.
What about you ever mess around with liver? Because you talk about nutrient dense foods. That's like one of the most nutrient dense you can get.
I've never done liver, but when my mom was pregnant with me, that was she craved liver and onions every night. So that's what she ate when she was pregnant with me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Watch that be like a superfood for you. Once you start having liver, then you just start blowing
Yeah,
up.
just go nuts. Yeah, no, we do a lot of meats, like steaks, chickens. Like, it's a massive part of my diet.
Yeah. It's so interesting. That's kind of like what happened to me too. Like I was on the whole, like when I was focusing on growing and gaining strength and gaining size, like I ate a heck of carbs, lower fat, high protein. And I felt like, okay, well, this is what everyone says. And this is what I read that is beneficial for gaining. And then I was feeling the same way, super tired, lethargic sometimes. So when I lowered it and went higher fat, moderate carb, lower carb, I just felt and I feel better doing that. I never would have thought that it would be possible to do that, you know?
Right.
So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm going to sustain probably forever, just because of the way I feel energy-wise.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to me.
Also, too, I think that, you know, maybe the amount of carbohydrates that we need just may have been maybe a little overdone. You know, like when Stan gave his presentation just a few days ago here at Super Training, he was talking about carbohydrates and protein and you know, where he thought it should be approximately, you know, per each person. And he was saying approximately a gram of protein per pound of body weight, and then he said carbohydrates about the same. You could scale it up if you need more energy. You know, if you need more, if you're Brian Shaw and you need to stay big and you need to get bigger, then you could scale it up. And same with the protein. But I just thought that was really interesting because that's really not a massive amount of carbohydrates. Someone weighs 200 pounds, 200 grams of carbohydrates is not a lot. I think the big problem in the United States, and the reason why, you know, I started like a war on carbs and have a book on it and talk about it often, is just because a lot of people really aren't moving around much. And so if you really don't move around much, in my opinion, you don't really need a lot of excess energy, a lot of excess calories, and then we end up getting excess energy from not just eating carbohydrates, but processed foods that we love to eat, and we tend to overeat them.
Right.
It's really hard just to, you know, eat one potato chip. It's really hard to go to a Mexican restaurant and they put the tortilla chips down. It's hard just to eat like one or two, right? Yeah. You're not going to be that modest with that. You're going to probably want to overdo that. The burrito is probably going to be loaded with a lot of ingredients and stuff too. It'll be really easy to eat. You'll probably eat it kind of fast. It's not going to probably leave you all that satisfied. You might feel kind of full, but a lot of times when I eat stuff like that, all I'm thinking about next is like something sweet. I'm like, I want like ice cream or something, you know? And whereas when I've changed a lot of the foods that I eat, and I just, you know, eat a steak, maybe have some vegetables with it. I eat like fruit throughout the day, some dairy. But when I kind of stick to those types of foods, they don't really spark another craving on top of me just, you know, eating dinner or whatever.
I think a lot of people underestimate how many carbs are in actual foods too.
True.
If you're going out to eat, you can't. It's hard to estimate how many carbs are in a meal sometimes.
Yeah, and fat, so you might use a bunch of oil and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking about like a society that eats down a lot too, and makes not the healthiest choices. Well, they might think they're eating 2,000 calories a day, but in reality, eating 4,000.
Right.
You know, so I think that's a massive problem too. Is just the ability to realize what's actually in your food and what you're eating.
What's a discipline that you've taken from the military, the things you learned in the military with like leadership and things like that, that you've taken into your business?
I think one of the biggest things is having a vision, but making sure everyone on that team understands that vision. So when I say team too, with building a social media platform, like the people that follow you and follow you closely and are a fan of your products and your brand, they should see and understand your vision too, right? And if that's not clear, well, then it becomes like very distorted on what you're trying to accomplish. Same thing with leadership and management. If the platoon doesn't understand what you're trying to accomplish and what your vision is for maybe that day, week, month, training mission, quarter, then if communication is broken, they don't realize where their part is. You know, they don't feel their part in the entire vision or mission. So taking that to business, even social media, is like making people understand if they come to my platform, they understand what they're getting. You know, so I think creating that vision and then making sure everyone knows what that is super important. That's been one of the biggest things.
Was there a big turning point with your business where you were like, oh shit, okay, now you know we're doing pretty well, and we can focus more in on you know, marketing, or you can focus more in on you know, things that would, you know, make it easier to get out to more people?
Yeah, so there was a year, it was between 2016 and 2017, we grew 750% in a year.
Damn.
Which was great, but sucked, as you know, from growing a business for cash flow reasons. We were always on inventory. But once we kind of recovered out of that growth period, that's when we fell into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And everything after that is just, you know, you can focus on the things that grow you rather than sustain you at that point. So I think when you reach that threshold and you have brand exposure and brand presence, then you can focus on pushing that reach out further for more people to be part of that movement or that brand. I think in the beginning it's hard to get traction, especially when you don't know where you're starting. You know, when you're a very small fish in a big tank or big sea, like, what do I do? Like, what's the first step? And it's super overwhelming. When you start putting things into rhythm, I'm a huge fan of backwards planning. Another thing I took from the military. So, you know, people always have problems with the plan. You can apply this to fitness, nutrition, doing a bodybuilding show or powerlifting competition. Like, let's say bodybuilding show. On the left, if you make a physical board, this is where you're at today. On the right is where your competition is. Okay, well, now I have to fill in the middle what I have to accomplish in between today and objective in order to make it happen. And then allocate time to each of those positions to make sure you reach your objective. So then applying that to business.
Yeah, and if you go with a forward plan rather than a backward plan, it might seem he might really look at it and be like, holy shit, man, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, super overwhelming.
If you kind of start backwards and you're like, well, the last 3 weeks I got to do more cardio. Like you write down all these things, you write down all these steps to get you to the show. As you look at it, you're like, I can handle that shit in like 3 or 4 week blocks. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, you break it up that way.
Right.
It seems less overwhelming.
Less, yeah, less scary.
I think it's one of the reasons a lot of people are intimidated in getting into fitness, because they see where they're at and where they want to be, and they realize it's a long road. But if you break it into chunks and make these small objectives towards your big objective, it makes it seem a little bit easier.
I've had friends before tell me, they'll say, once again, I'm like kind of on a diet. Once they start heading in the right direction, they'll say, you know what, by the time I'm, they might be 30 years old. By the time I'm 35, I want to be, 220 pounds. And, at that moment when they say it, they might weigh 250. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, dude, that's great thinking. Like, good on you that you're like, and then also too, like they're learning, like they're recognizing, like, I don't want to just like drop a bunch of weight because I might put it all back on. And yes, we could get them down quicker, but that's a good progression.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people could look at things like that. What if you just thought to yourself, you want to be like how'd you gain the weight? How did you get to wherever you're at now? How'd you get there? Probably put on a couple pounds every year. Oh, what if you worked on taking a couple pounds off every year? Maybe you lose 8 pounds, 10 pounds every year for the next 2-3 years. You'd probably be, that would be 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that would get you, to where you feel better and look better and be healthier.
Just making some small lifestyle changes instead of these drastic changes where, you make these big drastic changes, people are more likely to fall off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make these small lifestyle changes, well, you make that part of their routine, and that's forever.
Yeah. From a business perspective, they say one of the things that can sink a company the fastest is the growth. Mm-hmm. So how'd you kind of get over that hump of having that growth and being out of inventory And also, like, how do you relay the message? Like, didn't people get pissed?
Oh, people were so pissed. Like, we want to support your company, but you're always on inventory.
You guys
like,
suck.
Get your stuff in the order. And it's like, I wish I could, make a video explaining this to you, but it won't make sense. It's the growing pains of building a brand. And when I started a business with a $20,000 loan where all that money went into inventory, and obviously years and years and years I took a hit. When you have a growth of 750%, it's how do I recover from this? And I knew it wasn't going to be a quick thing. It was going to be slow. So it was working with manufacturers to get better lead times and manufacturing times, plus terms on payments, which helped out a lot. And then reducing expenses and spending on things that we didn't need to put back into the business.
Right.
So it took us a year and a half to get down to that spot. But once we got out of it, we'll make sure we never go back into it. I mean, with us, obviously everyone wants to blow up as soon as you start. But sometimes that's the death of you. And I recently made a podcast talking about how 750% growth in 1 year almost killed us. Because if you want to grow that much in that much time period, you're probably not prepared for it. So I would rather be a $100 million company in 20 years as opposed to the next 12 months.
Right.
Because I know in the next 12 months, I'm not ready for it. And there's things I'm going to have to learn. But in the next 20 years, well, I'll be prepared for that. So I think having that mindset where we're so focused on building a brand that's sustainable and building long-term within relationships and manufacturing and products and outreach and marketing, as opposed to, hey, let's just go find all the influencers with the biggest followings right now, take out a loan, give them all this money, have them push it, and then we have this little boop speed bump and we're back down to where we started.
Right. And those kind of companies, that's the kind of company that, somebody's going to probably raise money for. You know, the kind of style that you're talking about where you get affiliates and people to post about it. And that gets to be really complicated too. And you're like owning a business with like 20 other people.
That's tough, yeah.
And they do rounds and rounds of funding, and it works great, for the people that know how to execute it. There's these kind of serial entrepreneurs that can own any business, and they can punch a bunch of buttons, and they understand the back end, of these websites, and they know how to like really market stuff, and they understand digital marketing. That's the world that we're in now. And some companies don't even use, they won't even have their own website. They just sell shit on Amazon.
Right.
And they're able to kind of like blow up through that. But for people listening to this podcast, that takes a very special, that's a certain type of person. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to learn the way that you've learned, which is kind of the hard way. You could kind of go through the paces and feel it out. And you have to really stay under your expenses and really be careful, because it could really screw you up. And I've been lucky the whole time because my wife has been running the business the entire time. So we've been running it together. So fortunately, we never really dealt with anything quite like that. We did have some really good growth, but we always kind of moved slowly. One thing that did help us was that when we did have trouble with like customers, when it came to being out of inventory, or even just having a faulty product, just having a shit product that like ripped or something happened to it, that actually helped us gain a lot of loyalty with our audience, because it gave us an excuse to communicate with them further. And we're like, hey, look, you know what? We're sorry. You're right. We fucking suck. We do. We really do. But let me give you $100 gift card to the store. Get whatever you want, whatever we were able to afford to do, whatever way we could make it right. And then that person, they'd like flip out the other way. So here they were, like they were so angry, waving their fist. You kind of picture them on the phone that they're that mad, right? You completely spin them around the other way and say, you know what? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And a lot of times those customers were reoccurring customers.
That's awesome.
It just gave us an excuse to talk to them more,
Yeah. And it's one of the things we focus on a lot too, is customer service and order fulfillment. So like one of the praises we get all the time is how fast we get orders out.
Oh, that's great.
So like we won't sit on orders at all. And even like for 4th of July, we got hit like 4th of July. Every year we do a sale, but it's not like Black Friday. Well, we did a sale 4th of July this year that hit us harder than Black Friday, which we weren't prepared for. So that was 4 days of sleeping at the warehouse, fulfilling orders in order to get the orders out. But the thing is, the team understands that vision, and it was never me asking like, "Hey, will you guys stay all night to do this?" It was, "Hey, we're staying tonight, whether you want us to or not." So that was like a massive, thing that I realized after that moment was, okay, the team's on board. Let's make it happen.
Do you film a lot of stuff like that? Do you share that with your audience as well?
Yeah, we do a lot of behind the scenes of the warehouse stuff, order fulfillment. My brother handles all operations there, so I put him on camera a lot. But then having that transparency factor too has been super helpful for us because it's been from the beginning. Like people that have been following my journey since 2014 on YouTube have seen the company go from, my parents' upstairs bedroom to my house in Texas to our first warehouse to now our new warehouse, and showing those steps of progress is evergreen content forever to see the evolution of the business and the brand. I think that's super important now more than ever, where you have millions of brands and companies popping up, where if I wanted to go start a new company tomorrow, I could have a website made on Shopify tonight, get some drop shipping stuff on that site, and boom, it's a company. But there's no really social proof. So having social proof for like an e-commerce business is massive.
How is it working with your brother? You ever want to strangle him, or you guys work well together?
I think so. There's two factors in that. One, we're both so passionate about the business. That's sometimes where we clash because sometimes we both have different ideas.
But then in the long run, though, you can both always realize that and be like, all right, well, we're trying to kill each other, but it's all for the same goal.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're both in it together. And we both think two different ways. So he's more conservative thinking. I'm the one who I go for a run. I think of this idea. I come into the warehouse. I'm like, yo, this is the new plan.
Oh, that's perfect.
So my brother says, sit down.
My brother's like, that's dumb.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we implemented all of my ideas, we probably wouldn't have a business anymore. So my brother is the voice of reason for a lot of things.
His brother sounds like Andy from what you've explained, Mark.
Right. Yeah, my wife, yeah.
Cool. Does your fiance help out with anything?
Yeah, so Steph is part of BPN as well. So she handles a lot of our social media marketing campaigns, working with paid advertising.
Nice.
I don't think we mentioned this, but what is it that spurred that growth of 750%? What change did you make that maybe caused that to happen without you expecting it?
A sex tape?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what it was? Oh, I got the wrong information in front of me.
Bareback. It was actually a rebrand.
Oh.
So I decided, I started with the company at the first round of labels and website, and it was done by a buddy in college. I paid like $500 for this website. He did everything, and all I could run sales through was through PayPal. And our products were this old like pink and yellow and black bottle, and our logo was different, and just the brand wasn't super professional looking. So I said, okay, when I was in Korea, I said, I'm going to revamp everything. So I started a new website on Shopify. I got a new logo made, do all new logos, added new products to the platform in the line. We added protein finally. So I think it was like the brand presence, plus the exposure and documenting on YouTube, plus the new products, all that combined.
Starting, sounds like you may have started without maybe you had a vision, but you didn't have like a plan.
In the beginning, there was no plan or vision. I think that's what held me back for the first 3 years, is I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just throwing darts at dartboard, hoping something stuck. So I remember going to this.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I think it's just a different way of doing it. People used to ask me all the time when I was starting my business, they're like, did you write out a business plan? I'm like, no. I didn't. Fuck you. I'm still going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go. And it doesn't have to be that you don't have to always do things the way that everyone else always says you have to do them. You can do them your own way. Yeah,
and I was all on board and just figuring out as I was going. But I remember sitting in this. Me and my brother hired this marketing agency back in Pennsylvania to do our ads. And at the time, we were doing maybe 1 or 2 sales a day. So I walked in and we sat down, and they're probably just like, oh, we're taking these kids' money. We're just kids in front of this table with them. And they're like, what's your goal? And I said, I want to do 20 orders a day. They kind of just laughed. Like, I don't know if we can ever make that happen. So paid them like $500 a month for like 6 months.
That's supposed to be a marketing team?
So zero return. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to like take this into my own hands and try to figure this out myself. So that's when I became like the Swiss Army pocket knife of BPN, trying to learn every aspect of the business to save money and to be the key personnel behind it.
Feels like all of those things that you did at the beginning, though, allowed you to, even though you weren't necessarily ready for that 750% growth, you've been doing things for so long that it was just all in place for that to happen.
Yeah, I think it compounded at that moment.
Yeah.
And we look back sometimes, even though we messed up a lot, we made a lot of bad decisions. A lot of things that we did with like pure intentions actually just worked out. Like, I remember being in Korea and I was like, I'm going to write thank you notes. This is before like all the entrepreneurship, like social media buzz was going on. I was like, I'm just going to write thank you notes to everyone who's placed an order. So every night in my room, I write thank you notes, send them from South Korea back to the States where they lived. And I just did this for like months to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. But it was one of those things, just having a personal touch with the customer, which it wasn't because I was hearing people talk about it. I was like, I should do this. Or we would call everyone that placed an order that day. Just reach out, hey, thanks for placing this order.
Maybe you were genuinely thankful.
Yeah.
So you're like, hey, I should just thank everybody.
But like we look back at this stuff, and now there's podcasts and there's courses and all these things that teach this stuff.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you are just authentic and genuine,
right,
and do the right thing, well, it'll just be part of building that brand. So instead of following this game plan and the script that everyone else is writing for you, sometimes just like doing the right thing and caring about the customer and the brand and having that vision, it's what it takes.
There's like software nowadays that can like handwrite for you.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty badass. So that's how the big companies are still doing it. I mean, maybe there's a couple that are still just paying people just to write, but I think some of the bigger companies are just they could take like my hand. Well, maybe they can't mimic my handwriting. It's pretty unique to say the least, but it can mimic most handwriting, or not even mimic it. It could be identical to it, and that's how you do your handwritten note.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, with the supplement company, you're exchanging money for goods. There's a transaction there. They can physically hold on to something that they bought from you and your company. For your YouTube channel, after that one video went viral, how did you like retain a lot of the like the growth that you got from your YouTube channel?
So there was never really I didn't sit down. I wasn't very strategy driven for YouTube at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I was like, okay, I just need to pump out more and more content. And a lot of the content was more military stuff because I saw that military video did well. So I attracted this massive military audience and following from that video and retained them through like more military videos. But it was more so they became part of the journey and the process, like, and they wanted to see what I was doing. It wasn't like I was a topic video, like, hey, here's how to join the military, here's how to survive basic training. It was, this is my life, and this is part of my life right now, and this is what I'm doing. And people became like fans and an audience of following that process. They weren't there for like the how-tos or to learn how to join the military. It was, they wanted to see, I'm sure some of them wanted to see me fail, but then others wanted to see me succeed, and they wanted to see where that was going to end up, because it was a pretty interesting time in my life where I was in a different country on my way back to transition out to open this gym and sign this lease for this warehouse. So people knew something was going to happen, and maybe they wanted to see how's it going to play out.
The thing you mentioned, I'm curious about this actually. The whole idea of like committing, because you mentioned that like 3 times during this podcast, where, you did YouTube once and twice, you didn't like it, but then you just decided to actually just commit to it. And then all of these things you're doing in terms of like, you wanted to do a marathon. It's a different, well, you liked running before, but a 26.2 is difficult. You committed to it. Ironman, you just committed and went all out. Where do you think that came from? Because a lot of people like will put your toe in, see how it is. Okay, progress a little bit. Whereas you just seem to just go all in. So where did that come from for you?
It was when I rebranded BPN, where I said, okay, when I got to Korea, I said my goal was to make $10,000 a month in revenue when I got there.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time we were making maybe $3,000 a month in revenue with the business, and I wanted to do 10,000. So I said, okay, over there you have a lot of free time when you're not working. So people are watching TV shows, watching movies, playing video games, going to the bars and drinking if we were able to, playing sports with friends. I was like the most antisocial lieutenant in South Korea because I went all in like while I was there. Every waking moment I was just dedicated to building that brand. So within the first 90 days, we were making $10,000 in revenue with the business. And then after, like I said, that was the most productive time of my life. And realizing what I can do when I go all in on something,
Yeah.
I realized, well, that shit works. So I've applied that to everything else in my life. Like if I want to do something, like when I signed up for my first marathon, it was literally just me one night, hey, I want to run a marathon. Went on the website, signed up. Now let's establish a plan. Same thing for the Ironman. Hey, I want to do an Ironman. Go on the website, sign up. Now let's establish a plan. So it's one of those things, like I go all in on things that I want to do. And there's by no means ever a time where I'm paralyzed by analysis. I think so many people are. Yeah. And I think like naturally it's one of those things that I just don't get paralyzed by analysis. I decide I'm going to do something and then I figure it out.
And you feel like this happened after the Bear rebrand when you figured out that worked, that beforehand you weren't like this, but
I might have been, but this was the actual moment where I realized it. Like this is where I actually applied it 100% and realized, well, this works if you do it. Like if you literally dedicate everything.
Yeah. Well, nothing feels better than a taste of some success, you know,
Yeah.
and success can breed success because you have a successful thing that happened with your business and you're like, oh, well, I put a lot into that and like, look at it. It's fucking doing pretty damn good. Maybe I can do better over here in this aspect of my life. Before that time or just in general, it sounds to me like you may not be a very organized person. But I could be wrong.
I'd say I'm organized, or I was organized in a sense, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be organized in. Like I'm an organized person.
Yeah,
but
that's a great point.
I was confused in the beginning of like growing up.
So once you know what it is that you want to do,
Yep.
you can set a plan and organize yourself towards it.
Yeah, because if you don't know
Before that, you're not really sure what you want to organize your energy towards.
Yeah, because I remember in high school, like people were saying, well, what do you want to do with your life? I don't know. I know I want to join the military and I'll figure out after that. So it's like, that was the only organization I had. But I didn't have this plan for the next 30 years. I had a plan for the next 3.
Right.
And then when I finally went all in on the business, when I realized, okay, this is what I want to do. This is my passion. Then it was like the tables turned and there was like no looking back. It was like, this is what I'm going to do. You know, there was never a plan B. It was like, this is what I want to do and I'm going to make it happen.
How does it feel now to have a business where you do have multiple employees? And it sounds like for yourself and it sounds like for your brother, you guys are doing well. You know, doing well as a family, doing well as brothers together. That's pretty cool on a project. And then in addition to that, you have employees and stuff that you're taking care of. How does that feel for you?
I mean, it's definitely a responsibility. And I'll tell you, when I look back at my time in the Army and I thought I had a lot of responsibility then, which I did, my responsibility now I almost feel is greater because you have people in their families you're taking care of and that rely on you. So there is a lot that's on the shoulders, obviously, to perform. But I am forever and always grateful for the last 7 years of work I've put up into this point. But it always reminds me, like, I can't slow down today or tomorrow or the next day. I have to do bigger and better. So I think I always wake up, like, feeling almost like I'm behind. Like, I wake up, it's like, how do I win this day back? How do I win this day back to get to the following day, the next day? Because if I just keep sustaining what I'm doing, it's almost like the person that always reflects on their past. The person that's posting the same transformation picture from like 10 years ago. It's like, yeah, that was the last 7 years of my life. That was my last 7 years. It got me to here. But the next 10 years can't just sustain on the past 7 years. So it's always a constant reminder of like, this is what it took to get here. Now, what does it take to get to that next point?
You wake up every morning going, I'm fucked.
Well, they say, you know, the day of an entrepreneur is like this. It's like a roller coaster. You know, it's highs and lows. But I can't imagine my life without it.
Have you had to fire people before?
Yeah, we had to fire only one person so far.
When you first started out, were you kind of taking on like just friends, family, people that you knew in the gym type of thing, and has that changed at all? Or
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was me and my brother, and then a kid that moved down from college to help. And then when we opened the gym, we hired some more people to help out there. And that's when I had to start firing people, because I realized that everyone doesn't believe, and this was a hard lesson to learn, everyone isn't as committed to the way you feel about your business. Everyone doesn't feel the same way. So that's hard. That's a hard way to make people feel. And when they don't feel that way and they're almost toxic to the team, well, you have to get rid of them. And that was the same thing in the
yeah, you don't want people complaining and be like, I don't know why we're doing this. It's like, oh shit, well, goddamn, now we got to get rid of this guy because because now 5 other people are saying the same thing now because it gets contagious. You're right.
And I think it was a massive learning lesson in the military too. Is you have 40 people, and if you have 1 or 2 toxic people, that takes over the entire platoon. So you have to eliminate it as fast as possible, whether that's moving people around or firing people. And maintaining that structure and that positivity is super important, that energy to move forward. So taking that now to the business sector, and this is why I think hiring is so hard, is how do you find not the perfect people or the right people that have the right vision and the right intentions for the job. And I think building the team is my massive priority over these next couple of years, because I realize the importance of having the strongest team possible. And when you have a strong team behind you, you can only do great things. But when you have just a team and some of those team members are weak and some are strong and some are invested and some are not, well, that's when those weak take over the strong. So building the team is the most important aspect of building a business right now. And with that team, you can do so much.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference if you have people that are excited about what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're really into what they're doing. Have you ever have you read books in that regard, or have you gone to seminars or anything like that for some of the stuff you just talked about, or you just kind of figured some of this out on your own?
Just figured that stuff out on my own. Like I said, a lot of the lessons I learned were from the military with working with people, especially as a platoon leader and especially in Ranger School, and just influencing people or having the influencing people to make decisions that are better for the team, not just for the individual benefit. And those experiences I will always carry with me. They've had lasting impressions in my life.
That's great. I've been to I went to a seminar this year. It was a leadership based seminar down in San Diego. It was awesome, but it kept going back to leadership, and it kept going back to being really careful on how you hire people. And one of the things they said is you want to be really slow to hire and fast to fire.
Yeah.
So if something ain't working, it's hard, because you're like, well, this dude, he or girl or whatever is like, they have a family, they have friends, like they have this is just sucks to have to let them go. But it's what I've learned is it's not even fair to them anymore. Like if they're complaining and they're not happy, I think it's easy to sit them down and just say, you know what, it doesn't seem like you're very happy from the things that we're hearing, and I don't think this, do you you can ask them, do you honestly feel this is still working well, and they might, at that point they might just be like, no, I think you're right. And it's okay, we got to go our separate ways.
Yeah.
You can almost let them say it, because a lot of times they already kind of feel that,
I definitely agree with the slow to hire aspect of it.
You got to take your time. You make sure it's the right fit.
Yeah, because we hired this one guy, and on paper he was gold. Interview, gold. Performance, I was like, is this the same person? But that was one of those quick hires where we needed someone in a pinch.
Yeah.
And it ended up biting me.
What about does somebody have to have a minimum 500-pound deadlift or something, or
no,
is that a minimum requirement?
No, we don't have that. Do you guys have that?
No, we don't have
the workaround is you have to be on PEDs or have a 500-pound deadlift. So
nice.
Question answered.
Wait, do you agree? You agree with the slow to fire, but you don't agree with the fast to fire?
No, I agree with that as well.
Oh, you agree with that as well?
I agree with the whole thing, but the slow to hire, it resonates with me. Very, very true.
I got you.
Yeah, and also too, if there's a big problem like there shouldn't. It's like a relationship, you know. If you're in a relationship for the first time and like it's real rocky in the first couple like weeks or something, like it doesn't really make any sense.
Right.
It's like you shouldn't really be arguing. I mean, if you're together for a few years and then you get into some fights here and there, it's very natural, very normal. But yeah, if you have someone and it's like something's rocky and something it's not right, you know, you can treat it whatever way you want. That's a luxury of having your own business, but it is probably best to let them go before it carries on for too long.
Yeah. I mean, it ends up having short and long-term effects.
All right.
I mean, on the whole team and in the business operations.
Is it important at all that they exercise?
I mean, I think like
you kind of want you hope
I hope they do, and
yeah.
like they embrace the lifestyle. And I mean, depending on their position, you know, I almost hope I'd prefer someone that was active and worked out because they're relatable to the brand.
Right.
Like if they can't relate to the brand or the content or the products, then what are they doing?
Well, you also want them to be excited. Like if you guys are to film something with somebody, you want them to be like, "Oh, there's Russ Swole." Like you want them to be pumped up, right? You don't
Yeah.
want them to be like, "Oh, who's another jacked guy here?" Like
That has,
you don't want them just kind of like taking it for granted. You're hoping that they're all excited about it.
that's been a problem too. Like, you know, with the amount of content we do and social media stuff, like they have to be okay with being on camera. And when the camera's on, like your
They're
energy
diving behind packages and shit.
yeah, it's like the energy has like I've been to the point where like they're on camera and you know, that's going out to tens of hundreds of thousands of people. And if you're acting like it's like you don't want to be there, well, then maybe this isn't the job for you.
Yeah.
You writing this down, Andrew?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and Andy just kind of fired me this morning, right? So
A little bit.
a little bit, yeah.
It happens to me every day. It doesn't matter.
If you're
Just
not
come
getting
on
fired,
back.
you're not doing something
Yeah.
right. That's at least how I feel.
I've tried to kick him off the team, but like he could choke me out, so I can't really kick him off. He just keeps showing back up again.
Well, you usually have me choke you. Well, we're not supposed to talk about that.
Hey now.
That's another YouTube video.
The
Yeah.
next question. So I actually want to know, right now, I know that every pitfall that you've had in terms of like, you know, what you've learned in your business has led you to where you are today. So maybe, obviously, you have no regrets. But if you could tell yourself something when you first started your business, like a concept or an idea that you feel like would have really resonated with you back then, starting off, what would it be?
Oh man. I guess if I would have looked back, then I would have made two changes. One, I would have created and documented 10 times more content than I already was to build even more exposure. Because in the beginning, of social media, I was kind of nervous about putting myself out there. For one, I was afraid of carrying a camera around in front of people.
That's an awkward thing to get over.
It is
for
awkward.
sure.
It is awkward. Yeah. So like, I wish back then when we were actually like in the trenches of building the business, I would have documented that because that was a fun time to show.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're afraid to show your weakest points to a large audience. And then second off, I wish I would have taken time with some decisions with more insight. I mean, I'm a person that's pretty impulsive. And that's why it's great to have my brother on the team and my fiance because they kind of helps with some of that. But some of my decisions, even though I knew might have been the wrong answer, I was so impulsive I jumped to the conclusion and implementation. So I guess from the beginning, slowing it down a little bit instead of launching the business, I guess the products, for example, or jumping to the next, slow it down a little bit and kind of let it play out and put more insight into the market, into social media, into the product in the beginning because we paid for that years down the road. You know, that's why it took us so long to catch up. So we were only profitable at year 4. I didn't start paying myself until year 5.
Wow.
Yeah, so year 5 is when I took my first pay from the business. Kept everything in it till then.
Dang. So like the loans you took out, you didn't start like paying, like being able to pay that back till later?
We paid them back.
Okay.
Yeah, we paid all those loans back. But I paid them from Army money, not business money.
Yeah.
That's actually important. I think that it's important that people put their own money on the line, especially when they're starting out with their own business. Maybe if you're someone that executed business already and you just know how to do it, then who cares where the money comes from? You might raise money from friends, or you might raise money from a bank, or get a loan rather. But I do think it's important that you shell out, like the money comes from your pocket.
Yeah.
So that way you need to you need to feel the pain. Like you need to kind of, your ass needs to be like on the line. The more on the line it is, probably the better.
Yeah, I mean, you're personally invested then.
Yeah,
you have something to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize if it's known information, but is it common for somebody in the Army to start a completely different business while they're still in the Army?
I mean, I personally didn't know anyone else doing it.
Mm-hmm.
In my year group at least. Now there were some like older enlisted and officers that were getting into real estate while in the military, but not many people, or no one that I knew, had a business on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get it approved by your chain of command. So I had to go to my company commander and say, hey, sir, can I sit down, in-depth conversation? Can I run this business on the side? It will not interact with my primary job as an officer, and it will only be done in my free time. And he gave me the go-ahead. My first company commander was one of the best officers I worked with, from like a leadership management mentor, and just like good person to learn from.
Damn, what would happen if he would have said no?
So I had a plan for that, actually. I would have had to put the business under Preston's name, my brother, and have him operate it back in Pennsylvania until I got out.
There's always a loophole there.
Yeah, there's always something you can do.
Yeah. Mark, what did you think of the MRE today?
It was actually pretty good. Like I had like a hamburger type thing. Really weird, like thrown together thing, because it was like a hamburger. There was some weird like processed cheese that I squeezed out of a bag, and I heated it up on the table by pouring water into this other plastic bag. It was strange, but it actually tasted good. And I've never thrown a hamburger on a tortilla before, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, you're basically Mexican now.
I know. It was. I know. I can feel it.
Just do like a 10,000 calorie challenge with MREs.
It'd only be probably like 4 or 5.
Really?
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. I mean, in each MRE, there's between probably 1,200 and
These
2,400.
bad boys were in there.
Yeah, somebody was asking, they're like, what's the deal with the Reese's? I'm like, hey, calm down. They came in the MRE.
Yeah, there's Reese's, there's M&M's, there's what's Skittles in there sometimes.
Huh.
Yeah, you said like special edition ones too, right?
Yeah, the sour.
It had
sour
a lot of
tropical
stuff
ones.
in there. It had like snacks.
Wow. So it's not. I thought it
It
was
had
just
like
one
jerky.
meal.
Yeah, so did I. I thought it was like a bar. I guess he was saying that's like kind of older, like 30, 40 years ago they did that maybe. Or
Yeah, I
something.
mean, back when you used to get cigarettes in your MREs.
Yeah.
I mean, you get snacks, you get dessert, you get a drink, you get sides, you get the entree.
Sounds like lunch at high school.
It's probably better.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was saying it's better than like school lunch.
Wow.
It tasted pretty good.
Yeah, Mark mixed up like Tang almost
Yeah.
type of like substance in a bag, and he's having a hard time drinking it, but it looked good.
It was hard to drink it out of the bag, but it tasted good.
Yeah.
One of the things everyone always wanted, they have these caffeine mints that come in. I forget what package it's in. It's like the only way to get caffeine when you're in the field, and it's like this small pack of mints. It's caffeine like infused. Those things were game changing. But yeah, we lived off of those.
Everybody's fighting over them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had blueberry cobbler in there too.
Cobbler,
pretty good.
The
And
cobbler's
a cookie,
good.
a chocolate chip cookie.
This is like
Dude.
Wow.
I
The
know.
cookie was really good. It was like it was a little crumbly, but it was delicious.
It's good to know that they feed soldiers well on the field. Like,
Oh,
yeah, you guys
absolutely.
aren't eating crap.
Well, that's what I was
good.
saying. I was saying like now they, it's great they have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, what the hell else is going on?
Yeah.
After a while, you get tired of eating MREs because it's the same meals over and over again.
Mhm.
But I mean, sometimes they'll bring out hot food for us, and you'd almost want the MRE over the hot food. I remember like there's like memes on the internet of the food you get in the field. You walk through the line, and it's like a piece of steak the size of like this bottle cap right here,
Oh, so
Wait.
depressing.
Really?
and it's like your potatoes are like the size of M&Ms. It's like 4 little potatoes and a piece of steak, and you're like, are you serious? I just remember walking through the line, oh, we want an MRE.
Wow. Yeah, just so people know, we filmed a YouTube video of Mark and Nick plowing through an MRE each, and Nick was taking Mark through, like, he was teaching him how to cook it and stuff. It was really interesting. I mean, none of us had ever seen any of that.
No, I didn't know anything about it, and it was like just a kind of normal sized almost looking like lunch bag type thing that you ripped open, and then there's like 1,000 things in there somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know how there was so much stuff in there.
It is
but,
deceiving how much is in that package.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and this is the fact that like you can heat it up by just putting like I thought it was like all dehydrated food and you would like drop water on it and it would like expand and it's like, oh look, there's a cheeseburger or like whatever. But like
It's like that drop of water.
yeah. But like they put water in a bag and then that's how they cooked their food. It was dope. Like
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
yeah, it's a really good meal prep company idea. Just here.
What are some of your what are some of your thoughts with your business like in the future? Like, would you ever want to have your supplements at like a GNC? Do you want them in stores? You're going to stay e-commerce? Like, what's some of the plan?
Yeah, so we're gonna stay e-commerce, because I mean distribution is great for volume, moving volume, but massive hits on profit margins, right? So we're in some distribution like Australia with Massive Joe's and UK. We have distribution. We're working distribution in Canada right now.
Are you for sale on other websites as well?
We are, yes, within their distribution platforms, but within like the US, it's just our e-commerce platform.
Right.
And we like that just because we hold the profit margins.
Right.
For the future of product development, though, so I mean, right now we have protein, pre-workouts, amino acids, pump, thermogenics, nootropics. So like we have all of the performance supplements we really want for the time being, and we're shifting focus for R&D and product formulation moving forward to health. So like we have our strong greens, which is like wheatgrass, vegetable based. Now we're launching strong reds, which is
Fruit type thing. Yeah.
fruit type, digestive enzymes, beets based, and then moving forward, more health based products.
Nice.
So just because of the success of strong greens, and the more focus on health as opposed to just sports performance, with it being a larger market as well, that's where our shift is going.
So maybe potentially getting rid of like artificial sweeteners or something like that. If any of your products have artificial sweeteners, that kind of thing.
So for
or more like vitamins and minerals that are for health.
Yeah, so for all the sports nutrition, we use like sucralose and sweeteners. But for all the health supplements, that's all naturally flavored and sweetened.
Stevia,
so like monk fruit. Yep. So that'll be the go-to for all the health supplements.
Cool.
Health line moving forward. And then we're just doing a lot with more athletes coming on the team. And we're also really slow to bring athletes on the team as well, just to make sure they, same with bringing on a new hire.
Right.
And then doing more content with our athletes and then moving forward with that. So that's the future right now, is shifting, not focus, but new product focus on health and then content.
Any trade shows or anything like that you guys mess with? You guys have any seminars? You have any things where maybe the athletes all meet up or anything like that?
Yeah, so the past 2 years we've done an event at our headquarters down in Texas.
That's smart. I think that's like the best way to do it.
Yeah, so the first year was like a powerlifting seminar. We had like Matt Vincent and Silent Mike and Kyle Hunt all come down, Paul Revelia, and really great turnout, really good time. Last year we did a similar event, and then this year we didn't do anything just because the move took a lot of our time, and with it being August right now, it's almost too hot to have people around. So in the fall we're going to do another sort of event at the warehouse, whether that's another powerlifting seminar or something like that, bring in some instructors.
Cool.
But we try to do that once a year. Trade shows, we haven't done any yet, but this year we're shooting for possibly the Arnold.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you've been to them before.
Yeah, I've been to the Arnold the past 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've been with other companies.
Yeah.
So I think that's on the horizon for this year.
There's a lot of pluses to it. It sounds to me like you're a little bit like myself, where you're like, fuck it, let's just get out in front of customers and let's communicate with them and let's get our product in their hand and let's get as much exposure as we can. But from a financial perspective, a lot of people shy away from it because of the financial commitment, and then but in my opinion, it's like, if you can figure out a way to reach some new customers, I think it's great.
Yeah.
You would run into a lot of new customers. The athletes that you're with now would all dig it, and then also they're probably already going to the event. so you can create more content that way. From a content perspective alone, even if you didn't even break even on selling product, from a content perspective, it would 100% be worth it. So even just from that point of view, it would work.
Yeah, the main reason we want to go is, and I learned this the past 3 years going to Arnold, you go with like a brand and you're with all the athletes, it's very rare that all the athletes get together.
Right.
So like from going with the companies and I'm with the athletes and with the company, well, I feel even more part of that team. So I'm more like willing and I want to be a part of that team even more and post about it more and push it more. So getting the team together at an event like that is super important to us. That's the main reason we want to go. And even like this weekend coming up in Texas, we're bringing our whole team down. And we're doing like team building events and photo shoots and media, stuff like that. So that'll be really good, especially to get to Russ and Amanda in the same room, deadlifting together. That's going to be great content.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ends up being, like I said, content-wise, it will be great. We've been to, nearly every show. We've examined it every which way. We've gone small, we've gone big. We've, tried to go there with a thin crew, like just not a lot of people. We tried to go with a lot of people. We've messed around with a lot of different things, going to these events over the years. But it's always great to actually, run into new customers, see the old customers, get a lot of feedback. I mean, people sometimes come to the booth and they're like nearly crying because they really love to lift. And sometimes the strong sleeves or the slingshot allowed them to bench press or squat again. And they're just super pumped and excited about it. So from that perspective, it's always been great. But this year, we've really cut back on doing a lot of those shows. And I think we're actually just going to try to pick off everybody else's athletes just by doing like podcast type stuff. So
nice.
probably just like, and some, nice, we'll find a nice setup for that. Hopefully it can be actually at the Arnold. I know they have conference rooms and stuff like that. So that's what I was looking to do this year, just because, like I said, we've kind of run the gamut of doing that often. And we want to see what it looks like if we don't go.
Right.
See if it hurts at all or how it helps.
Yeah. I mean, we've been wanting to the past couple of years, but there's always something going on with like either us moving into a new warehouse or a new spot.
You'll love it. I think it'll be a great experience for you guys.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, especially getting the team together. Because right now, like I said, the focus is building a team, not only the internal team, but athletes as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Where can people find you?
Instagram at Nick Bear Fitness. And if you go on YouTube, just search Nick Bear. Someone's going to pop up with me, probably with my shirt off. So you can click that subscribe button there.
Getting sexy.
Yep.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.